we're live. I don't see Tom yet. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Irvington Planning Board meeting of November 5th, 2025. I'd like to introduce all those representing the village. Sarah Palermo, she's the gatekeeper on Zoom. There's Ed Marin, is the building inspector. There's Doug Hahn, he's the consultant engineer for the village. Mary Ann Stessage, the village attorney. Elaine New is our traffic consultant. Laurie Davidowitz is on the board. And Yillicott is on the board. I'm the chairman, Cesar Manfredi. It's Mike Smith and Mike Bafuco. Okay, the batting order, the minutes. Mary Ann, we got the minutes all?
Yeah, they're reviewed.
Okay, I make, these are the minutes of October 8th, 2025. I make a motion to approve the minutes of October 8th, 2025. Do we have a second?
Second.
David?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Approved. Okay, we're going to have a batting order. Number one will be 1 Shady Lane. Number 2 will be 69 Hudson Avenue. 3 will be 108 East Sunnyside Lane. Number 4 will be 92 Highland Lane. Number 5 will be 40 Hawks Close. Number 6 will be 19 Dearman Close. And number 7 will be 13 Manapon Lane. And number 8 is 76 North Broadway or Balmer. For those of you who may be interested, Mercy was on the agenda, but Mercy will not be heard tonight. There was an issue that could not be resolved on time for this meeting, so maybe on for the next meeting, pay attention to the agenda. Okay, moving back to number 1, which is 2023-06, 1 Shady Lane. And Mike Smith, you have recused on this? Yes. Okay. All right, do we have, Sarah, do we have someone for Shady Lane?
Yes.
Hello all, John Malone, Ferguson Malone Architecture, representing the MAR project at 1 Shady Lane. We are back with a revision to pick up a few small changes that we made to retaining walls. So there were some site conditions that led to additional retaining. We protected a very old Japanese maple, and the arborist would rather us not to fill any portion of its root zone. So there's a little retaining wall that was added for that. There's a loose laid stone wall to one side of the building. And then there is a at grade, a railroad tie wall it's not really a wall, it's sort of a base that's associated with a new shed. None of these were significantly below allowable coverage at 75%, so they don't really affect coverage of stormwater in any way. Do you guys have any questions? Cesar, do you want me to go through it on the drawings and just sort of identify what comes to?
I don't think so. You looked at everything.
We looked at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody on the board need plans? No. Simple change. Sarah, anybody in the public?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak, and there are no comments in the chat.
Okay. Mary Ann, do we have a resolution?
Yeah. Whereas on March 1st, 2023, the planning board granted site development plan approved Stacy Charavel and Neomar to construct an accessory structure to the house at 1 Shady Lane. And whereas on May 1st, 2024, the planning board granted revised site development plan approval to permit applicants to rotate the accessory structure. And whereas in November 2024, applicants applied for further, November 2025, that should be. Lori, if you don't mind, on the 2 resolutions, where it says 24, changing to 25. Applicants applied for further revised site development plan approval to construct new retaining walls in a shed, which exceed permitted coverage and therefore require a variance from the zoning board of appeals. Han Engineering reviewed the revised plan and in a memorandum dated November 3rd, 2025, identified 2 issues to be addressed. Planning board held a public hearing on the application on November 5th. Whereas it's a type 2 action under secret therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for revised site development plan approval as shown in the drawings entitled Charavel and Maher Residence, prepared by Ferguson Malone Architecture. The sheets of details are subject to 1, receiving a variance from the ZBA for coverage, and 2, complying with the items in Hans November 3rd, 2025 memorandum.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Any questions on the resolution? No questions. Make a motion to approve the resolution as read.
Second.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay, John,
Thank you, guys.
okay, you did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Number 2 is 2024-22, 69 Hudson Avenue.
If you're here to represent the application, can you please hit the raise hand button, please?
Go to number 3.
Okay, moving right along, we'll circle back to that if he shows up. 2024-01, that's 108 East Sunnyside Lane.
Okay. May I begin?
We got you.
Great. Okay, good evening. My name is Greg Cacciapoli. I'm the engineer on the project at 108 East Sunnyside Lane. This project was actually before the board in November of 24 with an iteration that differed pretty drastically from what we currently have. Let me share my screen so I can.
Yeah, the critical issue was the floodplain.
That's right. Yeah, the critical issue was the floodplain and zone and coverage. The revised plan brings the lot into compliance with lot coverage. I believe we addressed the floodplain issue. We met Mr. Marin out there,
Bring
discussed
up the site plan.
potential solutions. Yeah, absolutely. So, is my screen clear?
Yes.
Okay. So here's the 100-year floodplain. No, flood line is about here. The red line that I just drew. So everything above this line is within a floodplain. Currently what exists is a driveway with a metal shed, which was not in compliance. So the metal shed is proposed to be removed. Portions of the existing driveway are proposed to be removed to bring it in compliance with coverage requirements. There's a freestanding decorative retaining wall in the rear that is not grouted. I mean, it's open joints. And we're proposing to just put 2 gaps in it to ensure that water can flow through it should the brook overflow. The property is generally the low point right now, so we're not changing any flow paths or anything as part of this. And the second aspect of the job would be the reconstruction of the existing retaining wall that was falling apart, which we did provide some design elements for and checked in the field, and that's pretty much what's going on in this project.
And some of my notes from last year, something about potential fill being added, which would have subtracted from the floodplain.
We did test those, and
They're okay.
Oh, okay. And another, there's no stockpiling of soil in the water course?
That was inspected at the time we did the test, so there's no stockpile in the work. This is to legalize existing work.
And they
So-
got a water
so-
course permit? They applied.
We apply for it.
Any other questions?
I have none.
No questions. Nope. Anybody in the Zoom?
Nobody is raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
Anybody in the room? I didn't ask that question the first one, but I assumed you would have jumped up if you were there. Okay, Mary Ann, do we have a resolution?
Whereas in January 2024, Tim Conick applied for site development plan approval to reconstruct retaining walls of his property at 108 East Sunnyside Lane. And Han Engineering reviewed the plans and in a memorandum dated January 2nd, 2024, identified a number of issues which were mostly addressed in the submission almost 2 years later. And whereas the proposed development will alter a floodplain and therefore requires a floodplain permit, and whereas construction activities are within 100 feet of a watercourse and wetlands, therefore requiring freshwater wetlands and water bodies and watercourses permits, and whereas Han reviewed Conick's applications for such permits, and in a memorandum dated November 3rd, 2025, found that the application complies with the requirements for such permits, and whereas the planning board held a public hearing on the application on January 3rd, 2024, November 5th, 2025, type 2 action under SECR and therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the applications for a floodplain permit, a freshwater wetlands permit, and a water bodies and watercourses permit, along with site development plan approval for the improvements reflected in the drawing entitled Rear Yard Improvements prepared by Gregory Cacciatoli, subject to complying with the items in Han's November 3rd, 2025 memorandum.
Questions on the resolution? No question. Make a motion to approve the resolution as read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. Okay, Sarah did, thank you. You're on your way.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Did 69 Hudson come back on? Okay, moving on to, the next one is 2025-25, 92 Highland Inn.
Well, announce yourself.
Okay.
And so I was gonna put the plans up.
Okay.
Good evening, Joseph Crocco, 200 Business Park Drive, Armonk. I'm the architect. This is a very simple application. We raise the drawing up a little bit.
We're gonna try to zoom into
Okay.
the corner.
Right. At the rear of the house, we're proposing a stair, wood stair off an existing deck. It's 4 feet wide and 18 feet long. There's also 5 landscape steps that also we're including in the plan there, like Versalock or Unilock.
It's right here. It's the
Yeah.
place work.
Yeah, they're right on grade. They follow the contour of the land. So that's the extent of the application. I can go through the engineering comments.
No need for that,
Okay.
as long as you address them.
I will, yeah, I could put all this on the plan. There's no new lights.
And Doug, we're talking, this is steep slope back there, right? Erosion control.
This is really just the footings and stuff.
It's hand dug.
Yeah, we have a note on there that they may require it. They may have to. put it.
Okay. Very good.
I don't have a problem. So,
Yeah.
guys,
Just put the note on the plan.
I will.
Okay. Any comment from the board?
I have none.
No comments. Mike?
None.
Sarah, anybody on Zoom?
Nobody is raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
Anybody in the room? Okay, we have a resolution. Relax.
In October 2025, Ashley White and Aurelia Vitrini applied for site development plan approval to construct wood stairs from their deck and 5 landscaping steps in the backyard of their house at 92 Highland Avenue, which is located in Field Point. And whereas Han Engineering reviewed the plans and in a memorandum dated November 3rd, identified a number of issues which were mostly addressed, and which the planning board held a public hearing on the application on November 5th. It's a type 2 action under secret, therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval for the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Proposed Deck Stairs for Vitrini Residence prepared by Crocco and Crocco Architecture, subject to complying with the items in Han's November 3rd, 2025 memorandum.
Okay, thank you, Mary Ann. Anybody have any questions on it? No questions. Make a motion to approve the resolution as read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? None.
Thank you very much.
Don't go away.
Go away.
Yeah, they-
We can hand you.
Copy.
You can pick up a copy.
Oh, okay.
All right, Mary Ann?
Yeah, that's good. Save story.
Right over at the end.
I'll bring it over.
Last one signed.
I can get it.
Familiar with your system. A little different.
More personal.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Take care of yourself. Okay, we
Thank
did
you.
that.
You're welcome.
Take care. Oh, 2025-23. Right, yeah. Yeah,
That's right.
40 Hawks Lane. Is there anybody on for Hawks? The one we skipped over, he didn't come on yet?
I'm on. Can you hear me?
We hear you, we don't see you.
Okay. Hold on. Let me see if I can get my face to show up for you.
Actually, we're more interested in the site plan, but
Yeah, I'm sure you are. My name is Mark Fritz. I'm the architect for the project. I represent Arif Abu at 40 Hawks Close. The
Sarah Dizzy,
can you hear me?
barely.
No.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, now we can.
Yes,
and we can hear you now.
Yeah, we can hear you and see it. Just-
Okay, good.
We're not seeing a site plan, it's a
Yeah.
list of stuff.
So what we're doing is we're
Are you trying to open up your file for us? Because we can't see the.
oh, that's what I thought I did.
No, we just see the menu with the PDF.
Menu. Oh, that's what you see?
The index,
Yeah.
not the,
Yeah.
not the, not the site plan.
The document.
Oh, I see. I see.
Clicked on it, but nothing's happening.
Hold on. Let me try it again. I apologize for this.
It's happened before. You're not the first.
Yeah, don't do it too often, so. Um, let's see here. Let's see, it's showing me this one.
There you go.
Okay,
Looks like it might be oversized.
yeah, I purposely had it a little big, but I can reduce it, I think. Let's see here.
There you go.
Okay. All right, so I apologize for that. Essentially what we're doing is there's an existing deck at the rear of the house, which is basically this area right here, which you see that wraps around the edge of the back of the house. The deck is in awful shape. It's actually collapsing at one point, and the stairs, I wouldn't take them. So the client reached out to see if we can redo it, and in the process, they wanted to make it larger and more usable as opposed to being a path around the back of the house. So what we're doing essentially is we're increasing, basically extending the deck in the back here. That's the purple portion. All right. And stairs down to the backyard at this location. The deck we're adding 193 square feet to the deck. We're within our setbacks, and as far as coverage, we're fine. We're allowed 7,223 square feet of coverage, and our proposed is 4,181 with the existing structures. This red area here is an undocumented site structure. It's a flagstone and concrete patio, and that's about 384 square feet for that stuff. Obviously, we have stone retaining wall at the rear at this point of the property. The property obviously runs 368 feet back, and this line designates the wetlands, and this is the no disturbance line for the property. And this is this is the the wetlands setback. So that's the essence of the site plan. There's no disturbances in the front of the property as you come down the drive or anything like that.
Okay. And they're not in the buffer zone, so there's no
No.
course permitting or wetlands.
Now, you can see the line there outside.
Yeah. And you have, Doug, you had site plan issues that it could be done.
With the
Yeah.
drawings.
Yeah,
Right.
but that can be fixed with the building permit. Right, Ed?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Nope.
No questions.
No questions.
Sarah, any Zoom,
Nobody's raising their hand to speak, and there are no comments in the chat.
anybody in the room wish to opine? Mary Ann, do we have a resolution?
Whereas in October 2025, Arifa Blue applies for site development plan approval to reconstruct and enlarge a rear yard deck of this house on 40 Hawks Close. And Wisconsin Engineering reviewed the plans, and in the memorandum dated November 3rd, identified a number of issues with the submitted drawings. And was the planning board held a public hearing on the application on November 5th. Type 2 action under secret, therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval for the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled The Reed Residence, prepared by Mark Fritz Architects, subject to complying with the items enhanced November 3rd, 2025.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the resolution? No questions. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry you had trouble with the electronics, but.
Yeah, thank you very much. I apologize for that.
Well, don't do it again.
I won't.
I make a motion to approve the resolution as read. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay.
Caesar,
Thank you.
Is he,
I've been in touch with 69 Hudson. His architect isn't ready, but he's ready. We're trying to zoom him in now.
oh, okay.
So we can wait for him to zoom in, or I can do the presentation for you.
You will do the,
We've been looking at it for a long time.
okay.
No, he said he's having trouble.
This was before us a while ago.
It was, and it wasn't a complicated project, but the survey wasn't. So,
Your undocumented patio and shed.
yeah, the undocumented patio and shed. So this was an undocumented patio. There was an undocumented shed here, slab here, undocumented shed here. The up here, these two walls were undocumented as well. He's proposing to take out this shed here. He's proposing to legalize this. He's going to need a variance for rear yard setback on this. He's removing this patio here, and he's now proposing a little gazebo over the existing undocumented patio. He meets his coverage. He just needs a variance for the shed, the existing, legalize the shed for a rear yard setback.
Is that the only variance for the
That's the only
setback?
variance.
No coverage setback
No coverage variance, just the rear yard setback variance
for the shed?
for the shed.
I have a comment here, numbers are all wrong. I presume the numbers are all.
The numbers have been corrected, we had twice with the architect and the owner. I still have a few engineering issues, but not very.
And I had another question I had from last time was drainage for the gazebo.
It's under our requirement for drainage.
Oh, okay. All right, did he get on so we can at least,
Can't get on.
what's his name for the record?
Young Sean, CHU.
Yeah, he goes by Dan Sean,
And he's from where?
69 Hudson Avenue.
Oh, he's his owner?
He's the owner.
He's the owner
Right,
architect.
the architect, I'm not sure.
No, the architect is John Shu Kim.
Where is he from? They usually identify that.
Well, I mean, it's not my,
I don't have it. We can look it up.
All right, this is irrelevant. Any questions from the board?
I have none.
No questions. No questions. Questions from Zoom?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak, and there were no comments in the chat.
Anybody in the room? 69. That's none. Okay. We're all set. Mary Ann, do we have a
Yeah.
resolution?
Whereas in October 2025, Town applied for site development plan approval to construct a gazebo and legalize an existing shed behind his house at 69 Hudson Avenue. Whereas the proposed shed would incur into the required rear yard setback, therefore requiring a variance from the zoning board of appeals. Town engineering reviewed the plans and a memorandum dated October 3rd and November 3rd identified a number of issues which were mostly addressed. And whereas the planning board held a public hearing on the application on November 5th, and was type 2 action under secret, and therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval for the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Backyard Gazebo, prepared by Zhang So Kim, architect, subject to receiving a variance from the ZBA for the rear yard setback and complying with the items in Haas November 3rd, 2025 memorandum.
Okay, thank you, Mary Ann. Any questions on the resolution? Motion to approve the resolution as read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. Okay. If he was here, we'd thank him for his presentation. Thank you, Ed, for filling in.
He apologizes.
Okay. All right, moving on. There that then. Okay. Number 6. Yeah. This is 2025-26, 19 Dearman Close. Lori Davidovich will recuse herself on this and become a citizen in the audience.
Sorry. I forgot to come back.
For the delay, we're signing the previous, Lori left without signing. In the meantime,
Can you see me?
you can see your chest.
I'm trying to, I can't see. Is that better? I can't, there's no video on my screen for some reason.
Okay, you're okay.
I'm okay?
Well, I don't know if you're okay, but we can see you.
I'm okay. I'm up and about. So I'm
Hold on
representing.
a second, we're in a signing process here.
All right, no problem.
I want to pay attention. We're waiting for the rest of the signatures. You can identify yourself, please. If you could identify yourself.
Sure. Paul Gdansky P. I'm the engineer for the project at 19 Dearman Close. My clients are Allie and Jared.
Okay, we're ready. Go ahead.
All right, so let me share my screen. So my clients are interested in constructing an in-ground pool, a modest size 18 by 36 pool in the rear of their home with a small amount of.
You
What's
don't
that?
have the site. We have your name up. There you go. Okay, thank you.
Sorry. So they're interested in constructing the pool in the rear of their yard with a modest amount of patio. And to construct it, there'll be a small retaining wall located around the pool with openings to let you know to walk through. There'll be drainage located around the perimeter of the patio that will collect the water and run it into a Coltex system that will be located in the vicinity of an existing drainage system that was put in when the house was constructed. We are over coverage, so we will require a variance for coverage. And I believe that's about it.
Well, there's a lot of technical questions, but the key question here is there shouldn't, we don't know where, there was no variance issued when it was approved in 2014.
Yeah.
And now you have existing over coverage. And where did that come from? Because if you have existing coverage that's over allowable, it wasn't there in 2014.
Well, I could show you here. I'll put up the as-built.
So somebody might have put in coverage that wasn't there and approved in 2014. And the reason that comes to be an issue because if you get the aggregate of new coverage from the approval of 2014, it's like 62%, which is quite an ask, asking a lot
Yeah.
over the allowable. And curious, what was added that you're calling existing that wasn't there in 2014?
All I have is an as-built from, hold on, I could tell you what date it was. It was done, 3/6/25. So I'd have to, I believe one of my clients is on, he or she may be able to speak to that.
I guess the question is this the original homeowner or is it a second homeowner?
I don't know. I'd have to speak to them about that.
Well, there's also a whole load of technical questions. You gave, there's no indication of elevations of the pool, how deep it is, whether you're going to be in rock, and there's questions about the drainage. And
Yeah, the comments from the engineer I have no issue with.
Hi, this is Ally. We are the original homeowners.
Excuse me, could you, in addition to Ally, could you give your last name?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ally Ween. I'm the homeowner at 19 Dearman Close.
Okay.
We are the original homeowners, but we bought the house after it was built. So we didn't build the house, we bought it already built. So I actually don't know anything about sort of being over coverage at current, because we bought the house already built. We are the original homeowners.
Well, Ally, when did you buy it?
June, we closed on it in May of 2021.
Well, this was approved in 2014.
We bought from a builder, Frank Racanelli, who built our house.
Well, like I said, your architect is going to have to figure out what happened between what was approved and what's there now, because, as I said, some of your existing coverage, which is over 20-something% over, shouldn't be there because it was never approved. At least there's no record of it being approved. And when you add what you call existing, which was never approved, to what you're proposing, it comes to 62% over, which is a substantive variance. And we would require a neighborhood comparison as to what the neighborhood looks like. Is it's going to be twice the average of the neighborhood, or it's going to stand out as overbuilding a lot? We need to have that comparison. Standing alone, 62% is pretty high in terms of, especially for a fairly new subdivision, that not like one of the old neighborhoods that were up zoned and automatically have small lots around Station Road that happen.
We can foil the as-built from back in 2014 and take a look at that, and I'll also look at some of the lots, adjacent lots, to see what the coverages are.
Well, you have to put it in the chart what the coverages are.
Yep.
And there's examples of how to do that. And that wall, the retaining wall on the north side of the pool that sort of arcs around from west to east or east to west, is that a retaining wall or is that built up stone?
I believe it's built up stone, if I remember correctly, but Ally may be able to. They're talking about the wall in the back over here.
In the back, the wall that's currently there?
Yes.
I don't know what the technical difference is between built up stone and a retaining wall.
If you could call Ed Aaron, the building inspector, and straighten out that wall. I don't know if you counted that as existing coverage.
It was on the chart. Yeah, it was on the chart that I had, that was on the survey I received.
Give me a call tomorrow. We'll set up a time. Doug and I will come out and take a look at it. We'll let you know what if the wall or.
Yeah, we can't really move forward until we get some clarity on this coverage issue.
All right, no problem.
But we'll continue to ask questions on this. Is there rock up there? I mean, they got the drainage,
Up high, I'm not sure where the rock is.
and we're not sure, is the pool any way above ground, or you can't tell from what you submitted because there's no elevation for the pool.
Yeah, there is. It's 408.1 is the elevation of the pool.
Yeah, it looks like they're raising the pool a little bit above the grade that's there now.
You're pretty high up there. And I don't know.
I mean, there is existing drainage behind the house, so I don't know if,
Yeah,
I'm sure there's rock is gonna be way deeper than that, so it should be okay.
Doug, did Suzanne have screening issues? I forget what she wrote. I have a note here, screening.
Trees should be identified and screening of the pool and equipment from view of abutting properties required.
Yeah, and I think she wants the trees that are there. I'm not sure. It's not clear if you need to take any trees down, which we'd need to know.
Yeah, there's
And
no trees to be taken down.
she indicated there should be some plantings for screening
No problem.
if this moves forward.
I think you should take a look at the previous application too, the soil testing and the drainage that they had. They had 16, I believe it was 16 Coltex. So it's probably a larger footprint than what you're showing there.
Okay,
It might be tight to get another 8 in.
all right.
There may be some extra capacity in there. I'm not sure, but take a look.
And
No
some
problem.
you're up on a hill, so you need to do some erosion control. Silt fences are, and I'm sure
Yep.
that
Yeah, we have that on the plan.
and the pool equipment goes where?
The pool equipment's right here
I
next to the
see.
house by the AC units.
They don't, the pool equipment doesn't need a side yard. It looks fine.
Yes.
Okay, any comment?
I have no comment.
Mike, Smith?
Nothing further. Question. Besides the pool, and I see the wood deck, what is the rest of the coverage?
Well, there's the driveway, the house. And then there's these, the AC units, the
Trying to figure out what
Driveway doesn't.
What the- what the-
driveway doesn't
the driveway doesn't count. What could have changed? Because if I just see the pool and the deck, is it just the deck? It's a huge amount of difference. Are the numbers?
Yeah, so maybe you should pull up the other application and identify the difference.
Because I was going to suggest if when you're going through this process and you do the neighborhood comparison and if you see there's a big difference, I would suggest look at the things that weren't approved because you're going to have to come back and ask to get those approved and consider what you really need them just to save your time if you're way over what everybody else is at.
And back in 2014, will the county retaining wall this coverage?
What was that?
We were counting retaining walls, but if it's a rock slope or if it's a hillside with rock on it.
Yeah, but I remember we
I-
made a change, but it was before 2014.
It was 03 or 05.
No, because it was done when I came on. I mean, it was a change I made.
I'll take a look at that also.
Okay. Because I mean, I'm just, because it used to be that certain things weren't counted as coverage. And then we amended the code.
Yeah,
and
you're gonna take a look at that wall
Yeah.
as to whether or not it's a retaining wall, which counts, the top counts as coverage, or just laid up stone on a slope.
May or may not.
Which may or may not, depending on how steep the slope is. Okay, Ed, do you have anything further on this?
The schedule time you can come down, we'll meet, we'll pull out all the files, give me time to pull the files out. next
All right.
week. All right,
All right.
I have a question.
then we'll run out to the site.
What's your construction access? I just don't see how you're gonna get back there.
From here, by the driveway and along the side by the AC units.
And for clarity, there is currently a vacant lot next to us where I think there's a house that will be built at some point.
That's true. Now, I don't recall, that's why we need trees. Like, when I was up there, you're talking about going along the west side of the house for access?
Yes, correct.
If I remember when I was up there, there's a tree there in that vicinity. An existing tree on the west side of the house.
Yeah, not that the surveyor picked up. We'll have to have him go back out.
That's why our landscape architect desires the trees on the property to be located.
Yeah,
Um,
we have 3 small trees on the side, like along the property line on the side over
oh,
at the bottom of the picture, but there is not a tree in the back near like going into the backyard.
Well, we want to make sure that the access road doesn't run over the roots of existing trees because it'll kill the trees, and I'm sure you don't want your trees to die.
No, they're pretty new. I mean, they're all very recently planted. They're very young trees. They were planted in the last couple of years since we moved in here, so they're not. I think there is plenty of room, but beyond the roots. But we can take a look at that as
Right,
well.
when you come in, and your site plan, is very, we have to look at these at home, on our home computers, and it was very difficult to see what was going on with the way it was presented in the record. So please show the access road with the trees, in a dotted line of some fashion, so we can tell that the trees are not gonna be
No problem.
trampled. And driveways generally do not count as coverage, and we can discuss that with Ed, the building inspector, when you call
He had it correct on his worksheet.
him. Okay.
What-
I
what's that?
checked,
You had it correct on your worksheets and your site plan survey.
Yes, okay, yes.
I'm just looking at the code online, and I have a feeling that it was 2014 that that amendment happened. But before that, there was an amendment to clarify in the definition of building that retaining walls counted as buildings, because they should have been, but they weren't always. So it was clarified in the 2014.
Well, can
So it's possible that that's why there was more coverage as we count it now
Hmm.
than was approved in 2014. I'm not sure, but it
Well,
could
they
be
need
that.
to identify it and tell us about it. Right now, it's vague as to what was, where did it come from?
Right.
And why.
We'll get a copy of the 2014 application.
Please, you need to put it side by side and tell us how it transformed from what it was approved to what it is.
Sure.
Okay? All right, I'll ask again. Anything
No
on the
questions,
board?
thank you.
Nothing further. Anything in Zoom, Sarah?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak and there are no comments in the chat.
Anybody in the room cares to comment? Oh, okay. You have any questions for us?
Nope, I think we're good.
Okay. I think we're done. And you have your homework to do, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Number 7, 2025-24, 13 Manor Pond Lane. Sarah?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Can you see me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Steve Seacon. I'm working with Monica Weisberg on the reconstruction of her deck. Be okay if I share my screen with you?
We would prefer that you do, yes.
Good. Just for quick orientation's sake, this is Manor Pond Lane. North is to the right here. And as we scroll a little bit to the west, there is a small pond. And in the back of the house, you can see a deck similar to the other applicant. This is in very poor condition. This original deck, it's about 30-something years old, and a hazard as well as a stair that's also not usable. So in the same vein of bringing it back to life and making it safe, they want to extend it 3 feet further to the west, but basically, in the same location. It'll require fully, rebuilding new footings and so forth. And as part of the application, because this was a subdivision, we are over the allowable coverage and proposing to remove some of the all of the undocumented area here. I've spoken with Ed toward the end of last week about documenting this. This will be on an updated set of drawings with this patio and these stairs being removed to bring us back into compliance, which I believe you have a sheet that illustrates this coverage worksheet. In essence, we're removing about 210 square feet to bring us under the 4,800 square feet that's permissible. And that would be,
We just lost it. Okay.
sorry about that. So that's this area in the back here. And the existing footprint of the deck comes across right now here. So this 3 feet is new. This is the existing footprint. So this line represents what is here now and being removed. Oops. Sorry, there's a little bit of lag on the screen here. Just a moment, please. Okay. My screen appears to be frozen. Please bear with me. There we go. So we'll need some new footings, and then we'll modify the existing path. This will provide the landing area that's required. And the comments that we received from on engineering all look reasonable. The only question I have is regarding the permit for the wetlands. I looked on the website and was unable to find something. I'm just curious.
Steve, if you send me an email, this is Doug Hans speaking.
I
If you
do.
just send me, hi, if you just send me an email, I can send you kind of like the outline for it. It's in the code.
Okay.
It is referenced in the code there, but I could send you.
Okay, I'll do that tomorrow. Thank you. All the other comments look, fairly routine.
Okay.
So I'm happy to answer any questions or address any concerns that you might have.
All right, to be clear for anyone listening, we're not the village is not at liberty to have a variance coverage. There's a subdivision coverage up there that is pretty engraved in stone, so you have to meet it. There's no such thing as a village variance for a subdivision variance. And can you explain that better than I just
We
did?
spent a lot of time on it. That's why he's removing some.
Okay, and it's okay now.
He'll be fine. His next submission, if he brings in the wetlands, he'll be fine.
The wetland and watercourse permitting, if we had those tonight, we would have been able to move on, but we need that before we can move on. And thank you for the presentation. And I'm glad you realized that the coverage issue is something that had to be fixed. We have no control over that. That was part of the original subdivision.
Understood.
And to change the coverage would require a new subdivision, which is something that's not gonna happen. Okay, any questions from the board?
I have none.
Anything on Zoom?
Nobody's raising their hand to speak, and there are no comments in the chat.
Anybody in the room wishes to comment on 13 Manapon Lane? Okay. You have your homework. It's a matter of getting the permit, wetland and watercourse permits. And there is a pond back there. Again, I'll harp on the erosion control.
Yeah, and we're
They did show it.
yeah, we're planning silt fencing on the downhill side.
Okay.
You know, basically the existing driveway will, it's really, we're talking about less than 2 cubic yards of
Okay.
excavation, you know, because these are fairly small sonotube footings.
Yeah, good. Okay. Thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
right, we'll see you next time.
Okay, thanks for your time all.
Okay.
Okay, have a good night.
All right, we're going to, next is 2024-1876 North Broadway, Obama. We'll take a brief. Come back at 5 after, so that the applicant can set up at their little table up here. We moved along a little faster than normal this morning, this afternoon, tonight, all of the above. So we're gonna just take a 5-minute break. Come back as soon as the applicant has a chance to sit at the table. And those that need to.
You'll just.
Yes, do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
The Amber. Sorry, I can.
Oh. Yeah.
It's
No, it's all right.
honestly.
Like everybody's lit.
Twice in a week. Uh-oh.
Six legs, whatever, like, you know, like hanging, it's fine, it's really.
I was trying to do those for like Halloween. Like this. Looks like a wolf.
Yeah.
Put on like the second. Like Terry Thompson. Over there.
I can only do 3 times. Sword, the dog. Oh, it'd be good. I gotta.
Set up for the fall. Greater. Just not, it's just not.
Okay. We're back on the record. And while I was at the police station, I saw that the police have a TV camera monitoring the meeting, so if anybody's gonna storm the podium, they'll know. Okay, we're gonna move on here. As I said, we're moving on to 76 North Broadway, sometimes known as Varma, Primrose.
Good evening, Captain Lance from Silverberg Solantis LLC. The applicant, Pharma RE Development. With me in the room tonight is Peter Gato from Peter Gato Associates. The project architect on Zoom should be Peter Gregory and Brian Haggerty from DTS Provident. Probably no full conflict, but we'll be joining later from DTS Provident and Rocco Varma. So I don't know if we could ask the they be promoted.
Excellent. Raise their hands.
Well said, Sarah. Everybody accounted for, as she said.
Rocco, Peter, and Brian. We submitted a comprehensive plan set and we thought we'd start with that. All our traffic engineers are getting online.
Okay.
They're here, but you can't see what's talking. Or they share their video.
I'll look at his legal intro. So thanks for having us here. I know you've been spending time with the traffic and so I think people are familiar.
That's an understatement. Sometime.
So people are familiar with the project and the site, so I thought we'd just kind of get into the project. What you've been seeing in terms of layout and the roads, the interior elements of the project throughout the time of the traffic study hasn't changed. There have been some tweaks and things along the way in response to the traffic and some of the other comments we've been listening to as a parallel. So that's reflected in these drawings that were submitted to you for the submission here. Again, just familiarize yourself. This is two views from Strawberry Lane, and Broadway and Strawberry. And this is looking up Strawberry today. So today, as we get to the project, there's a lot of elements to the project of this size, but essentially we're going to talk about just the overall highlights, give you an overview, some benefits, the construction type. We can go through the parking. There's landscape elements to you here as well as lighting. The building will be interior finished, fine finishes of the building, a sustainable high performance building, and offers built into the design, safety and security, code compliant elements to help all the parts of the project.
Yeah, one second.
Yes.
To be clear, we didn't cover any of this. We were concentrating on traffic. And offline, I think you were meeting with Ed Marin and
Correct.
engineering. And this is the latest
Correct.
that after laborious hours, you come to what you got now.
Correct. So that's correct. And then, so this is, working with all the existing codes and the zoning requirements and the heights and everything associated with the project. And just as a reference, the site, as you see here, so the project essentially still entered from Broadway. The road, as you saw earlier, is circulating around the building, around the interior courtyard of the project. And this leg goes through Lisa lower underground garage. The purple line represents the setback line, which we're respecting in all aspects. And they're unique to this site and other sites along this side of Broadway. There's one setback, 125 feet, which is here. There's a 250-foot setback, which is orange. And there's a yellow setback, 300 feet, which is this yellow diagonal here, which is why the building sort of has a little slice at the bottom here, because we're respecting the different height allowances within each of those zones. So essentially no building in the first group. Second group is just low walls and no building. Between the orange and yellow, it's 2 stories, 25 feet. And from the yellow back to the property is 3 stories, 35 feet. So the building conforms to those elements. So just the underground garage is simply, we explain a little leg that comes down below. Underground garage, which has 3 different means of egress, has a stair tower, has elevators that connect both to the exterior and to the upstairs for exterior and rear, exterior and front. And then we have our recycling refuse rooms in centrally located, and it shows the path in which they would take. And the spaces are striped out, and all the spaces are laid out according with the dimensions set forth in Irvington codes.
Excuse me, you said that that's where the recycling and rubbish is, and then you got a dotted line out to the driveway. Did I understand you correctly?
Yes, the path in which the garbage is going to be removed.
And what happens when it gets to the driveway? Is that where the truck would be?
Yes, it's private carting. I think they come on site and pick it up.
And that's not going to interfere with the
Not
school hours?
No. And this is actually a different leg. The school people necessarily wouldn't come through this leg anyway. It's the lower leg in this section here. So the school will essentially be traveling on the northernmost circulation section in and out. And this is the apartment underground, mostly for the residents.
All right, so that pretty much eliminated, at one time, there was a pad, exterior pad for storage.
Correct. So nothing will be stored outside.
Okay.
Everything will be contained inside the building. It's a good point, Chairman. No refuse containers will be left outside. Everything will be stored inside the building, properly vented and such. So nothing exterior wise to be a attractive.
That's a change, all right. Yeah.
Yes. And as we continue to the ground floor building, it's essentially a simple L-shaped design to make it easy for circulation for pedestrians, wide enough for setup for emergency vehicles as needed, safety for the entrance of the apartment building, a safe path to the school entrance, which is on the northern leg, and a safe playground in front, which is fenced in and screened in, which connects directly to the classrooms. It's also have direct access emergency-wise should they need it to get cut through when they set up the apparatus or emergency vehicles on this lane, directly inside to the playground, to the walkway into the school system directly. And as you can see, that this sort of grayish area, this is the school elements, and then the whitish boxes down here are the apartments and apartment layouts. As we move upstairs, second floor, it's a similar idea that the apartments are on the southern or running the east-west leg and the southern leg. And these gray areas are part of the school system. And these white boxes over here are the apartments from the apartment. There is a code compliant fire protective wall in between separating the school, so it's a clear distinction code wise and both in programming for clarity of apartment side and the school side. At this level, just to be clear on the below, so at the ground floor is the parking level here, and this is above you. This is sort of built into the grade. As you move upstairs, this playground area you see in the sections in a moment. This is a grade level for the second level of the backflow of this building. There is access from this building.
Peter?
Yes.
Can you speak directly straight into the microphone?
Okay, how's
You're
this?
not coming in.
Sorry.
Now turn it straight to you. It's
Is that-
directional, straight. There you go. 90 degrees.
Oh, 90 degrees, got it. So the gray area, is that better? The gray area is connected to this is the school, which is directly connected to the exterior playground, and as well as the end of the hallway of the residential section, there's a direct exterior here as well. And then as you see the plan, we can go over this later on, but there is direct access around the entire building for this staircase coming down this walkway here, this level area, down to the front of the building on the northern side. And then if you look at the southeast corner, that stair comes out, pathway comes out, and connects wrapping around the southern end of the building. And we get to the third floor, it is all residential. And again, you see the setback on the western side, which is relating to that property line setback set forth in the zoning. The roof finally, as you can see, is a roof, lower roof, upper roof, and then quiet contemplation, recreation type outdoor amenity space, screened in all around. So just in terms of residential unit breakdown, this is in the chart. We decided to pull it out. It's on the cheat sheet you have in your floor plan packet. So the building is 24 market rate units, 3 moderate income units, 3 fair affordable units, and the 1 bedroom side. So 31 bedroom units. They range in size as per the village code parameters. The 2 bedroom units, there's 16 market rate units total, 2 fair moderate income units, 2 fair and affordable units, which yields 20 2-bedroom units, again, different sizes based on village code, for a total of 50 units. And then the school classrooms are 13, as we described below. Okay, so this is looking at this is the short section of the north. This is the top version, top drawing, is the northern leg, points south to north. In this case, the playground will be where my cursor is, and this is the turnaround radius right here. And you can see the garage is underneath that, and then the building is in white beyond here. And as you can see here on the left side drawing, this is the lower playground, and then the right side, this is the upper playground outdoor area. The bottom section is through the longer leg that runs east to west, and it's showing 3 stories. Compliant underground garage, and the 2 stories lower in a 250 setback, 250 and 350. The exterior elevations were designed as a
What's
modern.
that view? What view is that?
So this is the south elevation. So let's see. If you were to look at this, so if you look at the this is sort of the Strawberry Lane side. So it's the Strawberry Lane is coming down parallel to this. This is actually coming up too close to the building. It's sort of an interesting perspective because it's you don't really see it from the road this way because it's set back 50 feet and there's some groundscape and wall on the angle of the road. So showing a close up as if you were walking up to the building. So from Strawberry Lane side, we broke a series of stately white elements in the white building broken up to break up the massing and to create variation in the space, to create elegant, modern, but also vernacular, familiar style architecture. it's gonna be white fiber cement panels and with some gray and white panel inset. And the lower elevation is if you're looking from Broadway, walk way up to the building. So on the right side, you see that the double height space, which is the 2-story, and it steps up to the 3-story. That is that leg that's sticking out towards Broadway down on the right side. And then you have an entrance and the same architecture, the same design, where it's a white building, fiber cement panels, what's the texture inside the panels themselves, and then gray elements to further break up the mass.
That, go back to that north-south section, that's behind the parking lot and quite a distance from Broadway.
This, the bottom elevation? Yeah, this is 300 feet from Broadway. Right to the soccer field. And then just to complete it, we have the opposite side. This is the view looking in. This is on the left side. This is the leg running north and south, and this is the opposite side pointing towards Broadway. And you can see how the building steps down towards the front, which is leaning towards the western side of Broadway. And then the back of the building, which is the western elevation, or the eastern elevation, is only 2 stories in height by virtue of the grade scale and topography. So just to kind of touch on the materials again, fiber cement panel, they have a little texture to them, little stone layered look to them. 2 types of panels, lighter whitish color and a gray color, posing a metal roof, thermally broken insulated aluminum windows, dark frame. There are some stone coping sills which are integrated in the lower windows, metal canopy and metal railings to complement the solids and voids alternating as well as the balconies. And so here's what I was trying to describe earlier, is that the Strawberry Lane view is that this is the actual angle taken from as if you were cutting a slice of the earth and stepping back from it. So you can see how the building kind of steps naturally into the grade. It's really hidden in it's low in massing and low in volume, and it is 55 feet off the road, 50 feet off the road. And the variation of the breaking up of the white with the gray vertical interruptions helps to sort of set it up as sort of stately houses, broken up with some intermediary shadows. And the lower image is that image from Broadway. Again, it's hard to sort of represent, but we try to make it clear that you can see the steepness of the Strawberry on the right side. So it's really far up to the hill. The foreground, we'll get into the landscape in a few minutes, but it's all grass, it's all natural grade, and the serpentine roads as it bends around, there's landscaping that follows those. So as you twist and turn, or actually drive by the site, things are screened at different locations. So you just get glimpses of the building here and there as you drive past it. This was the lighting study we did. I think this was a pretty packet, but essentially we're all dark sky compliant. And all of our lights, we just picked a few just to kind of show you, mounted either on the building, full bollards. They're all facing down. They're going to be tactfully done, built in, sharp cutoffs, so there's no light spillage anywhere. I'm not sure if Peter's on. Peter, you there?
While we're looking for them,
Sure.
we talked about off the driveway, a sidewalk going to the southwest corner to a potential hawk light. I didn't see that on here unless I missed it.
No, that's a good question. So we included that in the package as an alternate location. I could pull that up now just so we could discuss it.
One of the things that flashed by, I thought I saw the sidewalk.
The other direction.
Could have sworn I saw it when you were flashing through it.
Yeah.
There you go.
So here, zoom in on this. So this is, if you imagine, this is the top one. I guess previous comments, there was some comment that the southern walkway along this side and would be opposite somebody's driveway, which we didn't like. So we moved it to the north end to make this work across between houses. So if it were to remain here, it would actually be across, and there'd be driveway here and driveway here, and missing these driveways. The one, then we thought of the alternate one, which is coming across this way, meeting the Broadway and Strawberry Lane connection corner, which would be this path here. So if we did this, we would not do the top one. That's the choice.
As long as we're talking about Strawberry, there was some, and was there an issue with the, showed one place another opening in Strawberry or using the existing opening in Strawberry?
It's temporarily using the existing opening for construction access,
But not tearing down any more of the wall.
not opening any more wall on Strawberry Lane. So I probably have to show an opening for the modified, for the walkway to go with the alternate.
Right, but not further east. And all that new driveway is all fire truck turning stuff okay.
We're really close.
Close. Okay. Go ahead, thank you. Sure. You were gonna go on to civil.
So Peter's here.
Yes, I am.
Right. Pete, so I can drive, you can talk.
Sure. So this is representing our existing conditions on the property. The shaded areas are areas that are indicating our steeper slopes as we get up to 15 to 25%, and slopes that are greater than 25% with the darker colors. There's only a couple of areas that we're seeing those steep areas. In the center of the property that's surrounding the parking area that was, I guess at that time it was constructed, filled in, grading down toward the front. And then we do have some steeper slopes up in the, what would be the eastern portion rear of the site as it approaches the rear property line. The area we can outlined with the dashed line is what our proposed limits of disturbance are proposed to be to construct the buildings, the parking area, our access, and also ultimately our utility connections and stormwater mitigation system, which is going to be located on the southwestern portion of the property. We can go to the next one. This is our removals plan, indicating removal of all the existing parking area, driveway, buildings and residents on the site. And this is our breakdown of our coverages, proposed coverages, including all of our impervious surfaces that have been tabulated that take into consideration, again, the proposed building, driveway, parking area, all of the walkways, playground equipment, retaining walls, fencing, and even calculating the existing stone wall surrounding the property. And it does include a small patch of a paved portion of Strawberry Lane in the southwestern corner of the site. This is what we've prepared to demonstrate our emergency access, having the ability to enter the property, access the upper portion around the drop-off area. We're proposing two, I guess, apparatus staging areas, one at the front entrance to the apartment and one in front of the school adjacent to the playground. The aisles in those locations are going to be 26 feet in width and would allow for the aerial truck to set up there and still have the ability to clear other vehicles passing through. We are showing also the ability for the fire truck to pull in toward the front entrance to the parking garage and be able to back out of there. There are hydrants that are proposed up on top. We have 2 hydrants up on around the drop-off area in front of the building. And we've also provided an additional hydrant at the existing opening at Strawberry Lane in case there was, the need to access, water from that location, that area of the site. Our general portion of the grading plan showing the establishment of the finished grades around the main entrance to the building and the transitioning of the grades from those elevations up to both the north and southern property lines. Terraced retaining walls to meet the existing grades on each side, as well as terraced retaining walls off the rear of the building to accommodate the playground areas in the rear of the property. There is not, and then this looks like it's our overall grading plan with utilities, stormwater mitigation area in the front of the site. That stormwater system is going to capture all of the runoff generated from all of our impervious surfaces, driveway, roof areas, conveyed into that system. The system has been designed for our extreme storm events, and any overflow would then be discharged to the current opening that's located through the outlet pipe in the southwest corner of the site. As it's currently existing out there now, all of the runoff from the site is collected and discharged through that point on the property. And we're going to be capturing that and recharging it into the soil. And just to remind everyone again that we have performed our soil testing and investigation related to the stormwater system in the front. We've obtained excellent results. We have deep, well-drained sandy soils with very good infiltration rates on that location on the site. So we are looking to mitigate any runoff through that system in that lower area. Our driveway profiles, entrance coming in, and then up maximum grade up to the top 10%, and then relatively level grades up around the drop-off area in the front entrance of the building to allow for parking, as well as also the emergency access up in that area. Landscape.
There's some landscape elements. I think this is in your packet as well. What is there? It's here. All there?
I don't know if you need to go through that. We had some issues with it, so you're probably going to change.
And with some issues or some questions, but the 2 main things I think we should say is that everything is clear from the underground utilities and water retention. The landscape architect's been working with Susan Nolan in terms of the comments and working back and forth as recently as yesterday. So this is constantly being updated based on her comments and all the engineering as well.
So we can share that. Yeah, all the utility, not just the subsurfaces, sewer lines.
Yes.
Wherever there's a sewer line or a storm line or electrical line, trees can't be on top of the roof.
Right.
And there was an additional comment she had that on the planning board, we're not restrained by inch replacements. And she actually felt it was over replanting. Like you took a shotgun and shot it, and wherever the shotgun, that's where the trees went. You need to be more refined. And if there's more trees than the land can accept because of stormwater or piping, that in the village tree code, there's opportunity for a tree fund where any trees that don't fit on the property could be donated to the village to be placed somewhere in the village. So that's another opportunity. So, yeah, she had some heavy comments along those lines, and I'm sure you know, you can figure it all out with Susan Nolan.
Yeah, Paul's on too. I think it's a combination of trees, bushes, ground,
Yeah,
so all different types of scales.
She
and
was more
sizes.
interested, I think she's, I recall her saying, yeah, shrubs, that there were the lacking of shrubs. Not invasive shrubs.
Correct. All things.
And more shrubs, she'd like to see more shrubs as opposed to all trees, because, you know, trees has a high canopy and, you know, no screening at the eye level. So I think that needs to be worked on. But in terms of other things, that's probably, that's easily resolved with Susan Nolan.
So yeah, Paul's on. If you want, Paul, you want to just touch on your landscape plan a little bit? Were you able to hear the chairman speak?
Yes, I heard all that. And we have been in touch with Susan. And we do intend to you know, work with her and make all those plan comments. In terms of the landscape plan, you know, really our goal here was to provide a comprehensive landscape plan to provide varied all-season interest. Along North Broadway, the frontage plantings, they'll consist of newly planted shade trees, ornamental trees, and evergreen trees. I know this area was of particular interest with the tree commission. One of their comments was that they would like to see an even like for like removal to planting. So I think we had 26 trees to be removed within the front buffer area, and we're now proposing 26 trees to kind of satisfy that remark and comment by them. So we were happy to do that. Along the internal driveway, as we're leading up to this center drop-off court, it's to be lined with shade trees, and just to overall increase the amount of shade on site, which was another comment provided within the letters. Building foundation plantings are in the form of shrubs, perennials, and ornamental grasses, just to provide interest for users. And then along Strawberry Lane, in general, the evergreen trees, we're looking to preserve them as best as possible, which is evident on the tree removal plan, and then also supplement that with you know, mature, large growing evergreen trees to provide a 365-day all season buffer. And we can accomplish that with staggered placement to infill sightlines. All species were selected utilizing the village approved plant lists with their appropriateness within the region. And then in total, I know the comment was kind of refine the landscape plan a bit, but as of now, the plan, we're proposing 222 trees, 55 shade trees, 143 evergreen trees, and 24 ornamental trees.
And the rest of it's just the details that provide. So several landscape details, several civil details, some road elements here. That's all we have for tonight.
Okay, and I think Ed made you aware of a sewer line connection that you can work on it.
Yes.
The I&I is.
Peter, you're still there? Yes.
Yes, I am. Yes, we had a very productive meeting with your staff, and we've received some
Not my
direction.
staff.
Well, the staff, and we did receive some good direction, and we're putting together the data to, you know, begin this study in the area of concern.
Because, you know, the pumps, going to a county pump station, which probably has capacity, but the sewer line's getting there with the I&I issue. You need to really get that straight with the building inspector and the village engineer.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The other thing I just wanted to mention, I thought I heard someone mention earlier that Strawberry Lane would be used as a construction access, and that's not the case. We are not looking to bring any type of construction traffic up Strawberry Lane. to enter the site through the existing opening that's there now. Maybe initially to get the staging set up and mobilization into the site. But ultimately, the plan would be to have all of the activity occur out onto North Broadway.
Okay. Ed Marin, building inspector, nodded yes. Let the record show that he acknowledged. Okay, thank you. I'm going to see if they're finished first.
So that's it for the presentation of the new plan.
No, I just thought it might be helpful when you were showing the materials that's gonna be on the building. If you had a picture of a building that's actually got that material on it, so you, I mean, it does, the building might not look like your building, but so you could see what it looks like. It's a little hard to tell. It was just like a white box.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Now, there was another picture that you showed, a metal roof. Was that the vertical part of the roof that's going to be shown to be observed?
Yes, it's a
Speaking to
mansard.
the microphone, Peter, please.
It would be on the roofscape, basically covering the parapet. It's a standing seam metal roof at a short angle.
And how big is that?
4 feet tall.
Oh, it's not 8 feet or something.
No. That was just an example of the image I think that you showed it. It's not that tall. It's actually the height of a railing. So when you move a railing, so you don't sort of see that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, this is a roof, but it's actually just the height of a.
That's not 4 feet there.
No, this is an example of the roof type. Not the exact roof, so metal roof type, but not, it's more of a mansard covered section, 4 feet high.
When Mary Ann asked the question about it, that picture brought back. So if you could show something what 4 feet looks like.
Sure.
In addition to what she asked, what's the visual going to be? Materials utilized. Okay. Right. Do you have anything on? Thank you very much for that. The comments tonight, we'd like to look at the implementation and the left-hand turn lane. Do you have anything on the left-hand turn that you want to talk about before?
Carlito or Brian?
But you also got a copy of the implementation.
Yes.
Do you have any comment on that? I mean, I'm sure you just got it within the last few days, so you may want to chew on it for a while.
No, I believe that what was proposed is acceptable.
Oh. You want to tell the crowd that? Yeah, we'll work on that. I want to get this left-hand turn lane out of the way. All right, let's do the left-hand turn lane, then we'll get to the implementation. I'm sorry. Yeah, then we'll get to the.
From Main Street.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
Right.
Yes. Can you go to the slide with the turn? I think it's a few past this one. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going.
One of the diagrams as you were flashing around showed the left-hand turn.
That one. This one. So I just want to put a disclaimer. I'm speaking on behalf of Carlito. I'm relatively new to this project. So if there's any specific questions that are about the project, I may defer to Carlito, but I will do my best to answer any general questions. This plan depicts the extended left turn storage. 10 extra feet were added to meet the code requirements. As shown, the parking on the north side of the plan, there was a request to try to maintain a 12-foot lane for westbound traveling traffic through that lane. So as shown here on this plan, the double yellow line has been shifted down to maintain that 12-foot width on the north side, and then this helps to line up the double yellow line on Main Street as you cross the intersection with Dearman Street, and we're able to maintain a minimum of 12-foot lanes at all locations.
Yeah, initially, last meeting, we eyeballed it, Mike Smith and I were out there, and we asked for specific measurements and came back 10 feet, which, while acceptable, was something this board was not going to accept. And there's been some communication, and now we're up to 12 feet, which, from a highway standard, DOT standard, and our traffic engineer consultant, 12 feet is something that likely will work. And this is one of the few things that everyone on this board and in the village can relate to, because you come down Main Street heading west and it's a constriction right there existing. And while 12 feet is a good number, and I think every engineer would say, yeah, 12 feet works. But we think that in order to be safe and not to eliminate, and to eliminate a potential chokehold, that those 2 parking spaces can be eliminated. And we have a buffer, and there's an element of surety that there's going to be enough room for a truck. And somebody coming east on Ward Way is not going to cheat over the line. They do all the time. I know I do. And create a chokehold there. And this board feels that the elimination of those 2 parking spaces would facilitate a guarantee buffer of space move. And then there was another suggestion that there's a lack of unloading zones up there. And if those 2 spaces could be created as loading zones in very specific hours, not in the morning and not in the afternoon, that the truck that parks there now in the east of truck line, where trucks park there now illegally, and it creates a choke zone. So now at least they'll have someplace to park legally in non-rush hour. So that's what this board would like to see, the elimination of those 2 parking spots to, because it's something we can see, something tangible. It's not an empirical or calculation or assumption. It's there. And everybody sink their teeth into it. It's a real number. And anybody that's stuck on Main Street, they know it's a constriction. So we're going to err to the safe side. What's the expression? Abundance of caution, which I'm not a big fan of. But in this case, we'd like to see that buffer. And as a planning board, we recommend, I don't know if the trustees would agree with it, but create a loading zone where those 2 parking spaces are.
Would the removal of parking require BOT approval?
Yes.
Caesar, if I may speak to that a little bit.
Yes.
The conversion of the parking spaces to loading zones would also require BOT approval, I believe. And so it sounds like there are 3 options that the planning board is. BOT.
Oh, Board of Trustees.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, DOT is not involved on Main Street.
Wait.
Yeah.
You have to speak straight into the microphone.
And also, to be clear, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there's another element to this. Even if the parking spaces weren't going to be removed and we were okay with 12 feet, we're not sure. Mary Ann's got to investigate it. You may have to go to the Board of Trustees just to move the lines, because it is village property. And we're not sure if you have to go just to move the lines to the trustees. But we know you have to go to the trustees for the parking spaces. There's a chance even without the parking spaces, you need to go to the trustees to alter current configuration of the lines on the street. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thanks, Caesar. So, are we good on audio?
Yeah, thank you.
It sounds like the planning board is considering 3 options. So the first is eliminating the 2 parking spaces and with the elimination of the two parking spaces, you would then create a continuous left turn lane between Dearborn and Broadway. In this option, sorry, Dearman. In this option, you would require dashed lines in the middle of the Dearman intersection just to direct drivers, hey, we're shifting you further to the north, because otherwise they might get confused. They might drift into where parked vehicles are. There just needs to be a little more engineering behind it. There's also the concern of removing the two parking spaces, what it would do to the commercial businesses. I have not studied the parking at this location, so I can't speak to that, but that is a concern. In terms of the loading zones, I believe you would still have that 12-foot buffer between the double yellow lane and the direction it is now. And actually, Peter, can you zoom in to where the measurements are? It's a little unclear right now. So the 12-foot lane is between the 12-foot zone is between the double yellow line, where the left turn lane is extended, and the hatched area for the parking spaces on the north side. 12 feet is more than sufficient to allow for vehicular circulation. By New York State DOT standards for this type of road, you typically want 10 or 11 feet. 12 feet is more than enough to accommodate heavy vehicles and the traffic that occurs on Main Street. So in my professional opinion, any of these options could be viable. There's just a little more engineering with some of these, but I believe that keeping the two spaces is absolutely viable, creating the loading space is viable. And if you have that 12-foot space for vehicles to circulate, you have no issues with traffic circulation. That's all I want to say.
We're going a little bit beyond. Been in situations in the previous lives where I had to be right. In this situation, we have to be right. Otherwise, that's going to be a choke. Okay. I guess we should take them one at a time before we get to implementation. Is any comment on this?
We have to.
Yeah. Do we have comment on this?
Do we want to comment at all on the plans on the property or save that?
I guess if the, yeah.
I have some short ones. On your drawings, it's a little hard to tell what the gray shading for the school building. If you could make it a bigger contrast, that would be really helpful going forward. Number two, the illustration of the trees that make it look like there's this incredible forest in Irvington that I haven't seen seem exaggerated and are distracting to the actual plan. So if those towering evergreens that you have there are not representative of actual trees, I personally would prefer to see the drawing without that. You have the front outside playground, which looks like it's just for the school. And then there's the back playground. So I just wanted to understand if the back one is for the residents of the building and not the school.
They're actually for both. Both players are available for both.
Okay, that's interesting. During school hours?
No.
Okay, all right, so that makes more sense. Thank you. You mentioned that the driveway into the garage would not be used for school families, which is actually not 100% true, because we talked about the possibility of overflow cars that don't have a space to park up top, circling around and going into the garage to do drop off, or parents that need to spend more time. So I do think that needs to be noted. And then the last thing is you started with the word sustainable, that this will be with sustainable materials. I don't know if there is a certification for sustainable that you're talking about, or if you're just using it as a buzzword. because I know that LEED certified is a much more intensive program. Would be preferred, but I don't think we can personally enforce that. So I wanted to mention that. And I guess the very last thing is visually, the massing doesn't seem as broken up as I personally like to see it, particularly from the Strawberry Lane side. I think from Broadway, you're a lot further back. It's not a straight view. I have concerns from the Strawberry Lane side. And then the turning and the traffic in the left-hand lane. I really agree with what Caesar said. We want to really be cautious and err on the side of overcorrection because that chokehold is so significant as it is right now that the concern that 10 or 12 feet won't relieve it enough is high enough for us that we prefer removing the parking spots and making more room.
The buildings from Broadway look good with the setbacks, but from north-south view, is that you have a sort of a cold institutional look. Maybe you need more trees there, more green to lessen the impact of the buildings. As for the traffic situation, we the board certainly feel that we have to alleviate the congestion. I mean, 12 feet might work, but again, given the busy traffic that is present during the day, early morning, and later in the afternoon, that really, like Caesar said, we have to side with caution and wisdom. So clearly, I think the loading zone idea might alleviate potential congestion that might develop. So
You mentioned the view from Strawberry, that you did add some architectural features to break up the mass. And judging from what Lori said and how she said it, I agree that maybe you could do a little bit more of that to soften the mass. I know in another major project here, we went through great lengths to have architectural features to eliminate straight lines. Toll Brothers. If you see that, they went through, the original developer went through some rigorous changes to make it not look like barracks. Thanks, Smith.
So I really actually want to direct my comments to the public so that they understand better what we were talking about on the left-hand turn lane. Because it's not just about 2 spots. It's our understanding that by simply extending the left turn lane for 1 car, it allows the applicant to minimally meet traffic code. We do not think that we should extend it by the 1 car in order for that to happen. We think that that will create a different problem for the village. Therefore, it's our opinion that we should suggest that the 2 parking spots be eliminated, which, since it requires the Board of Trustees approval, it will allow you to speak to the Board of Trustees about this. This isn't just about whether or not 2 spots should be eliminated. That's all I want to say.
Mike Bufuco.
Just back to the images. I agree with Lori. We should not have all of the painted in trees, or at least 1 view. But I also think we should have actually both. So if you could provide, here's what it looks like. We're removing all of the painted in trees so you can get a real good look. But also, I don't want the takeaway from that to be that's actually what it's going to look like. So I'd provide both what it might look like with the actual landscaping, but also an unobstructed view so we can get a better look at the building. So we have both. That's it.
What do you think we should do next? This or this? Okay.
Well, maybe the public needs to know.
Yeah, yes. Okay. Another element of tonight is the implementation, post-implementation plan. There were some copies and probably were not enough. We weren't. I have, if someone would like to read in their hands.
There are copies of the post-implementation study on the table.
It looks like AKRF on the, instead of everyone, maybe if there's one for every group. Yeah. Yeah, Mike. This was a very rigorous enterprise that our consultant and we worked on with input. One of the major inputs was the comment, how do you know the staggering is going to take place? Well, that's a good question. And in the implementation study, in the post-implementation, is monitoring that we feel will make sure that the staggering that is required is actually happening. Because that's a critical element of mitigation. And we added quite a bit, we feel it's quite strenuous. Open it for comment. Kathy, you nodded before, you were okay with it?
Yes, I believe. I don't know if Carlito's on the phone. I mean, I'm sorry, on Zoom yet.
Sarah? Carlito on? Okay, well, we'll defer on that. Okay. Laura, you want to?
One of the most.
Well, I'm gonna just ask us first. We reviewed it and you have anything to say about?
No, I think it's very extensive and well done and protects the village and the neighbors should there be a bigger issue than is expected.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it is quite comprehensive.
Yeah, me too. Mike?
I agree.
Mike? Same. Elaine, you're on.
So just to give the residents a preview of this, an overview of this, the first page is an outline. This highlights every single point that the plan hits, that the methodology hits. The next two pages contain a lot of jargon that you may not understand, which is why we have this short summary for you. The first page is essentially meant for residents to understand what exactly is going to happen, for the planning board to also understand what this methodology entails. And again, the more detailed version is what is going to actually happen in terms of what is going to be a part of the approvals, what the applicant has to sign off on, and every single step that's included as part of the way. The purpose of the method of a post-implementation study is to measure several performance measures and make sure that they are meeting the code, meeting operational goals, etc. And so we want to make sure that A, all the traffic mitigation measures are implemented. B, the project does not have any additional impacts that were not measured as part of the traffic impact study. But also, if there are any, the applicant must pose additional mitigation measures to essentially fix those traffic operational problems. And also, there was a lot of discussion at the last meeting regarding staggering, whether or not it's actually feasible. So as part of this, we're also going to be monitoring the staggering to make sure that it's actually happening. So just to go over it briefly, firstly, of course, I mentioned this earlier, all traffic mitigation measures must be implemented prior to occupancy of the site. The post-implementation study not only includes traffic counts at every single intersection that was studied as part of the TIS, part of the traffic impact study, and also the driveway, but it also includes a traffic analysis for every round. It also includes 24-hour counts for a week at a time during each of these studies along Broadway, so we understand what's happening over the course of 24 hours over a week. First, in terms of the frequency of these counts, the frequency of these studies. Within the first 2 months of full occupancy, but also within the first year of opening of the school, with 155 students, the applicant must conduct the first set of traffic counts plus analysis, which is the first post-implementation study. After this first study, the applicant must then conduct the same study, the same traffic counts, the same analysis every 6 months. At each of these studies, they must prove that they are meeting all the performance measures, meeting all the mitigation guidelines, meeting the village code. Again, if they do not at any point in any of these studies, they must propose additional mitigation measures to mitigate these traffic impacts. For staggering, we're going a little bit beyond what is being proposed for just the study, again, because we're concerned that, especially in the beginning, staggering must happen, as well as throughout the entire process. So within the first 6 months of opening of the school, regardless of the full occupancy, whatever it is, every 2 months within the first 6 months, a driveway count, a turning movement count at the driveway, tracking every single vehicle entering and exiting the site will be conducted. Again, this is every 2 months. It is for the AM peak hour, the AM off peak hour, the midday peak hour / the school dismissal hour, PM peak hour, and the PM off peak hour. That's 5 analysis scenarios that they had originally analyzed. These driveway counts are not for analysis. These are only for evaluating the staggering. So as part of that, the applicant will provide a summary of the traffic counts so that we can make sure the staggering is happening. After the first 6 months, where you're doing it every 2 months, these driveway counts will still be collected every 6 months as part of the post-implementation studies, which, as a reminder, we're still doing that every 6 months. All of this will be happening on a regular basis until the planning board grants relief from any of these conditions. Any questions so far from the board?
Any board questions on what she said?
I don't have a question. I just want to verify that there are cameras on site to track all of these cars as well.
Yes, that's correct. So as part of this methodology, we have asked the applicant to do video turning movement counts. So that way we can accurately check if these counts are correct. We can make sure that there's no funny business happening. So we have a record there. We would be requesting the videos from the applicant and spot checking it ourselves just to make sure that everything's on board, as I'm sure it will be.
Mary Ann, this is a permit that this will be in, and permits are enforceable.
It'll be a
or not
condition of
renewed.
the special permit. Yeah, I mean, all of these things, probably the post-implementation study will be attached and made part of the
The approval of the permit, if
Yeah.
we get there, yeah.
Just like you give a site plan subject to, conditions, this will be a special permit subject to these conditions. Same thing.
If you have any questions on what I've said so far, please feel free to ask, but we still have another half of it to go through.
Another half of what?
The post-implementation study methodology.
Oh, the technical, you want to do that?
Just briefly.
No, not the
because-
technical part. She's still on page 1.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm staying
I'm
on
sorry.
page 1, but I'm going through a part of the methodology that's more
You gave a
detailed.
deep breath, I thought you were done.
There's more. Yes, there's a lot. If the applicant chooses to pursue the removal of staggering, the increase in population, they would need to study this and prove that it works. So they would do the study at whatever number of students they have, 155 students, and hopefully full occupancy of the residential units. If they're looking to remove staggering, they would shift the student volumes that they have for each peak hour to the specific AM peak hour and the PM peak hour that students would all be arriving during and leaving, and or leaving during. So in that case, if upon testing removing staggering, if they show that it works, the planning board would have to sign off on this. If they want to increase the student population to 176, they would also need to do the same thing. They would need to conduct a study of the scenario, projecting the traffic volumes and the number of students up to 176 and conducting that full analysis. If they would like to both remove staggering and increase the number of students to 176, that's another scenario that needs to be analyzed. So again, every single step of the way, it needs to be proved that there will be no additional impact based on the analysis that they would be conducting. That is mostly it. That part, I guess, was a little easier to explain than I thought it would be. But I just want to emphasize that this is a very complex and detailed methodology. It is probably one of the most, if not the most complex methodology that I've seen and written. And it's also quite costly. Every month every time they do the study, it's going to be a decent chunk of change. So I just want to emphasize that it's a large effort. So reading my last bullet, I've mentioned this before, but just to reiterate, if at any point the traffic analysis indicates that there are impacts at any of the intersections, that they would need to propose additional mitigation measures. And again, these could be with the infrastructure, they could be signal timing, they could be upgrading the intersections, they could also be changing the they could also be changing the number of students. They could be changing staggering as well. So again, additional mitigation measures would need to be provided if at any point there are any impacts that are found.
Okay. Okay. Now you do. Okay, thank you. Anybody have a comment on what? I guess we're open to anything on Zoom before we go to the room.
Yes, Stephen Malfio, raised his hand.
We'll save him for later. I want to hear from the public first.
Then there's nobody else raising their hand. It's just
Anybody in the room wish to opine?
I'll start.
Go right ahead.
Oh, never mind. He'll start.
I just want to make one comment. There are a lot of you here, and I'm perfectly fine for everybody to come up and say something. If someone has already said something that you agree with, feel free to just say, and in addition to what the person before me said, you don't have to repeat it. You can acknowledge that you agree with that and you're supporting that. I think that might help us, move along. Thank you.
Anthony Altamura, One Meadowbrook Road. I was going to speak to something else, but let me just chat about this one, the mitigation plan. The one, I don't know if it's a flaw in the plan, but if it turns out when they do the post mitigation analysis that the level of failures are greater than what's been anticipated and what they're estimating, for instance, if they end up being what we've been projecting, there could be a situation where the level of mitigation required may not be achievable. It may be at some point it's just impossible to fully mitigate that level of failure, which then may result in what I think Elaine was suggesting could be is a reduction in the population of the children attending the daycare. And at some point that could reach a number that they may make the project not even economically feasible. So I'm just want to bring that to everybody's attention that this post-implementation mitigation or analysis could result in a need to reduce the size of this, and that could be very problematic. The one issue I wanted to raise tonight was that we've been talking about
Let's
traffic.
do number one first. Otherwise we get lost. Now, didn't we have a threshold of 155 first?
Yes, 155 students works under the analysis. They also analyzed 176 and it works.
But we have a threshold at 155 before we go further.
Yes, that's correct.
You're not going to get to 176 and find out 176 doesn't work. So we're going to see if 155 works.
Yes, like I said earlier, before you open it to 176, you need to analyze 176, prove that it works, and then you can move forward.
But to Tony's point, that risk is on the applicant. The applicant is confident that their analysis works. I'm sure the reason that they're okay with 155 is because the economics work at 155. That's my impression. But if for some reason it doesn't work, then that risk, as you described, is on them because we have the ability to insist upon other mitigation measures.
Right, but there could be a point where what is necessary to fully mitigate the issue would be a reduction in the size of the class of the students to a level that doesn't make it economical, and then you're in a very difficult situation.
I agree with you, but like Mike said, it's the risk of the applicant. And-
They're in a difficult situation.
Well, no, we as a village are as well, because then we have a project that
You're
may
right,
not
that
work.
in that situation, it is possible that for the remainder of the year, when they can't mitigate, they can't just tell everyone stop coming to school. Right? So you're right that if it's catastrophic, which none of us think it will be, but it's possible that they would need to mitigate to 99 students in order to get it to work, and maybe mid-year, and there's nothing they can do. But in that situation, that you're saying that 99 isn't economically feasible for them, there would be the rest of the year that would be painful, but then they'd be out of a school that doesn't work for them, or they would lose the special permit in which there's no school. I don't think anyone up here thinks that this situation is likely. That's part of the reason that we went with the
village would have gotten the housing that they want. This was a housing this is zoned so that the village could get housing. So 50 units are being built. That's what the board wanted.
The board wanted affordable housing. They're getting 3 or 4 units of affordable housing. The rest is
I'm
market
talking
rate.
about housing. So that housing will be there no
That's
matter
a different
what.
discussion. Frankly, they're getting five.
Moderate. No, isn't it a 5 affordable and 5 moderate? There's 10 units. 5 affordable, but moderate is also affordable.
I'm just making the point that there could be a scenario in which the project is not economically feasible, and then that could create a very difficult situation. It should be considered now rather than looking at it after the fact and discovering that that's the case. The other issue I wanted to raise, it's a very important one, I believe. The traffic analysis that's been undertaken to date has been a review of the traffic standards, the 3 traffic standards that are part of the MFO district's zoning code provisions. They're written in the code. We've been studying them. They've been looking at them. We've been looking at them. They're all technical standards. However, there's another set of traffic standards that need to be satisfied in order for a special permit to be issued. Those are in the they're incorporated by reference. They're in the code, in the zoning code, and those provisions have not been addressed to date. No one at DTS, no one at AKRF, no one at all has spoken to those other traffic standards that are written into the code. So I don't know how we can close out the traffic analysis when we've only looked at one set of standards that have to be satisfied, but we haven't spent any time evaluating the other standards. Those other standards are found in, just so we all know what we're talking about. It's in the code section 224-8E1D. those are provisions that are generally found in the residential one-family home permitted use section, but they're incorporated by reference into the MFO district section. You have to pretty much says flat out that you have to satisfy the standards in order to be eligible to have this for a special permit. Those standards look to things like whether or not there's going to be a hazardous situation created by the traffic, whether there would be an inconvenience to or there's an incongruence with the district in which the project's going to be located. In this case, in the area, in the neighborhood, it talks about. And it also talks about whether it would create conflict with the normal traffic of the neighborhood. Those are completely different types of standards than the highly quantitative standards that are part of the additional requirements to receive a special permit. We can quibble about whether or not they've satisfied by a razor's edge the quantitative standards, and in all likelihood we all agree that they haven't, and that's why they need this elaborate, complex mitigation standard to try to cure those failures, which clearly exist. There hasn't been a single sentence stated to date on this other set of standards that have to be satisfied. So I think it's important for this board to require the applicant to spend the time and effort to do a thorough analysis and prepare a study that discusses how it's going to satisfy these other standards. The hazardous standard, for instance, someone's making a left turn heading south on Broadway across 2 lanes of traffic into this new Broadway entrance. That creates a pretty significant hazard. The inconvenience stuff, I mean, anyone can see that. The hawk light that they're going to have that's going to shut down traffic. And the mitigation itself creates a change in the traffic that this particular standard would pick up. When you're now pushing traffic from the peak period into a non-peak period in order to stagger, you're basically extending the rush hour from an hour to 2 hours. That's creating a conflict with normal traffic in the neighborhood. Those are the standards. It's written into the code. It's incumbent upon this board and frankly the village attorney and the building inspector and everyone involved in this process to make certain that this applicant is complying with our standards. None of it's been addressed yet. And to me, we're not even halfway through the traffic analysis. There's a whole set of traffic standards in the code that have not been addressed and need to be addressed. Thank you.
Well, the board, when I remember this, when the draft of the zoning for this district first came before the board, one of the first drafts, it said that, there shouldn't be any significant traffic impacts. It was just that general. And the board said, no, that's too subjective. You have to give the planning board, which is the one granting the special permit, some benchmarks. We want to be very specific about what would be a significant impact on traffic. And then went back to AKRF and asked them to develop traffic standards for us, and this is what they came up with. So the board wanted significant traffic impacts defined, and this is how they had it defined.
Okay. I recognize a face here that when I said last time that we're not going to be removing any parking spaces, that was before we had the actual measurements, because I recall saying we eyeballed it. I want to see real measurements, and the real measurements didn't work. That's why this meeting was saying the parking spaces need to go. Anybody else? Yes.
Good evening, Jeremy Clauser, 91 North Broadway. Just as a general comment, I feel like I'm sitting here in the twilight zone because I can't imagine anything less reasonable for this town than this development project. It makes no sense. I heard Mr. Smith say it's all about housing, and it is. It's all about housing, but it's really about affordable housing. And we're getting 5 units. And in exchange for those 5 units, we're putting a hole in the stone wall that makes our town very unique. We are going to create, the fact that we have a post-implementation study that is this rigorous tells you that we have a problem to begin with. Otherwise, we wouldn't need this. Okay? And to your point, Mr. Manfredi, the choke point at Main Street and Broadway, where you have to be right this time. I went to the post office yesterday at 3:15. I live a half a mile from the post office. It took me 20 minutes to get home. Okay? I didn't get anywhere near the left turn lane for the first 15 minutes because I'm several blocks behind it, waiting to get to the left turn lane.
I've experienced that.
Yeah. And now you're going to add 50 residential units and 176 students. You're going to have cars coming on both directions, north and south on Broadway, waiting to turn left, waiting to turn right, because that parking lot, that circulation, it's not going to handle it. There are going to be people waiting on Broadway, going both directions during school hours to turn in and turn out. Staggering? How is that possibly going to be enforced? You parents who need to go to work, this is a daycare center. It's not really a school, okay? I moved here from West Orange, New Jersey. This guy's got one in West Orange, New Jersey. He has several in New Jersey. I'm very familiar with his work, Pharma. It's a daycare center. And parents need to drop their kids off because they need to get to work. So to Tony's point, now you have this post-implementation study, and if there's a catastrophic failure, what happens? Oh, it's on the developer? Yeah, it's on the developer and the rest of us. And you don't think there's going to be a lawsuit or multiple lawsuits? And you just brush it off and say, that's their risk? That's our risk too. We have to hire attorneys, the village. We have to defend those types of lawsuits. You guys are a planning board, you're supposed to plan for the future. This is backwards. This is not forward thinking. This is backward thinking. This is not going to work. I already can see it. You don't have to be a traffic engineer. You just agreed with me that you've seen it. It's already 20 minutes. And so what's going to happen in the morning and what's going to happen in the afternoon is that you're going to have people blocking one lane in each direction on Broadway while everybody's trying to turn left off of Main Street after picking their kids up at school. And do you think that a longer left turn lane or eliminating 2 parking spaces is going to alleviate that problem? You're going to have traffic going backed up at that light and the next light. You're going to have traffic backed up at Main Street, and you're going to have a safety and traffic issue at the entrance on Broadway because you're going to have people waiting to turn both directions. That you can't accommodate that many people at the same time. And to think that parents are going to stagger their drop-offs, they're going to come at 9:30 instead of 8:30 when they have to be at work at 9. It's just not realistic. I urge you to seriously consider whether doing this in a backwards way is really what's in the best interest of the village, because it doesn't seem like it. And now to change the subject entirely, away from the traffic, but I heard about the storm water mitigation system for the groundwater, for the surface water. What about the groundwater? They're on a hill, okay? They're building an underground parking garage. Have there been any studies about the groundwater flow and what's going to happen there? Because it's going to go around the building and it's going to cause 2 streams of groundwater. What are we doing about that? Has that been studied? Has anybody considered that issue? Is it going to flood Broadway? Do we know?
I know now the 8-inch pipe that floods Broadway is going to be eliminated. We do know that. Anyway, you raise a lot of good points, Rick. And that's why the trustees, in their wisdom, created a measurable as opposed to intangible code. And it's a difficult position for somebody, oh, you need code, but we just don't like it. That's a bad position.
It's not a, It's not a question of liking or disliking, it's a question of function. This board's function.
Well, no matter
is to
how you
serve-
word it.
No, it's not how, it's how you word it. This board's function, planning board's function, is to serve the public and to work in the public interest. And if you don't like it because it's not in the public interest, that's the definition of your job. That's why you're on the board. If you didn't like it, if you don't like it, let somebody else do it. I know it's a thankless job, believe me. Okay? You guys are all volunteers. You're doing a great job, but you're all residents of Irvington. Do people think I'm crazy? Are you not? Is it not realistic that this is what's going to happen? Not just at this intersection, but all along that stretch of Broadway. You all drive here. You don't have to be an engineer to know that this is exactly what's going to happen. And then you've got this very hardy post-implementation plan. And we go back to Tony's point. What happens when there's a catastrophic failure? Lawsuits happen. This guy's going to spend what? How many millions of dollars? And you think you're going to revoke his permit and he's just going to walk away? That's never going to happen. It's not realistic. I urge you to consider that. I really do.
We take everything seriously.
I just want to clarify something because it's come up a couple of times about the number of affordable units. There's in our code, there was a special bonus given for moderate income by almost anybody, probably in this room standards. Moderate income is pretty affordable. It's 80% of the area median income for Westchester County, which is a little bit more than over 100,000. So if it's a rental, it has to be affordable to somebody who's making roughly $80,000, or if it's a family more. So by almost any standards, that would be considered affordable housing. So which is why the board had this additional bonus for moderate income, because their concern was increasing the number of what they called affordable with a capital A, which would meet the 60% requirement for affordable, 60% of AMA, and then small A, just affordable. And so there's a total of 10.
Anybody on the board wish to comment on what we heard so far? Move on to the next person.
I mean, I think this board would agree that the idea of the mitigation standards is not because we think everything is going to be a complete failure. It was to ensure the public that we would be looking at this with the microscope for a very long time. If we thought this was going to be a failure, we wouldn't even be considering this right now. I also know that there are traffic studies that show that people's habits change. So, we all know that going down Main Street during school dismissal is not a great idea. And I think you get caught in that traffic enough and you recognize that, okay, I'm not going to go to the post office at that hour. So people's habits change when they need to. And that is documented through other traffic studies. I've read them. I think we have to recognize that as well. And maybe, I can't imagine that anybody in that neighborhood wouldn't actually appreciate a safe way to cross the street. There might be challenges with the halt crossing, but I think those would be, those are things that need to be discovered. But personally, there is no safe place to cross there. So a safe crossing area, I would think, would be welcomed by all the residents.
Who's crossing there?
You have to use the microphone. I apologize.
I have walked around this town many times and tried to cross there, and it's impossible.
There's no reason to
You're
cross
going to
there.
need this. Transcript will not pick it up.
If you are a walker, there is a reason to cross there.
There's going to be 50 units there that would benefit from walking across the street to the train station rather than taking their cars to the train station.
Point is not the 50 units that are going to be there and the 176 students. It's that we don't need it now. There's nobody's. I live on the corner of Meadowbrook and North Broadway. I'm there all the time. I work from home. Nobody's crossing the street there. So I don't know who in this town is going to appreciate that. That just doesn't, it's
We
not
can-
real.
We can agree to disagree.
You live on the corner there?
I live very close and and that is, maybe people don't walk enough in this town, but I certainly have been with many different people trying to cross.
People don't walk. I probably agree with that.
Is there anybody else in the room? Okay. I think we're done. Anybody on the board?
Are we moving? Microphone, please. Thank you.
I was about to close the meeting, so you made it under the wire.
Okay. So Asia Track, 20 Strawberry Lane. I just had, I was rather surprised by the presentation of the site plans, the amount of information that came out, all the appearance of the building and the planting and everything. So are we gonna be back to that at some point in the future, or this is like, because I don't know if I have a lot of questions. I just don't have them formalized or formulated at the moment.
I'm sure there'll be a few more meetings on
Right? On
because the fire truck situation accesses, and you're working on it, it's getting better.
Getting better.
But, there's going to be certainly another few meetings, and they are going to the trustees, so I don't know what they're gonna say. Although there's one new trustee sitting, hiding in the back there. Welcome to the trustees.
I also would recommend if you wanted to put those items in writing, it would be a good way to track them for the next meeting, to share them in written format for us to address really distinctly.
Did you raise your hand? Yes.
So, Karen Donahue, Sarah Street. I'm not prepared, I wasn't prepared to talk tonight. I came to learn more about the project, but I did want to speak to you about the parking spots. And I wanted to say thank you for trying to save them. I live on Ferris Street. I park on Main Street. I have sometimes friends that come and park on Main Street. It's a parking place for me, for residents of the village. Every parking spot is like a diamond. It's very important. And I think it's also important for, I'm not sure, I've been to so many meetings lately. I was definitely a board of trustees meeting, and it was probably the last one. And they talked about, building the downtown businesses and how to enhance. They were talking about the art, and, we want to have a vibrant village Main Street and businesses. And certainly one thing that's super important, because I've had people not in Irvington necessarily, but that have businesses, and parking is like key to having a business. People have shut down businesses, and it's all about parking. You have to be able to let people come. So the fact that 2 parking spots, I don't know the numbers on Main Street. I could count them and come next time. But, it's 2 parking spots is a big deal. So, I'm looking at this in a very different way. I'm looking at it from the village, the people that live here, the people the businesses that work, that run here and all that. And they need parking spots to do things. I don't know anybody that needs, daycare, and what this applicant is offering is not something the village needs. So I'm a little confused about that.
You could bring that to the trustees. The 12-foot, we understand, will work, should work, I should say, not will, should. Difference between will and should. And we're erring on the safety side. Trustees have the ability to do whatever they want. I'm sure they'll give you time to give your thoughts on it when the time comes.
Well, I think I also have trouble with the parking. I think, Laura, you had a good idea. I do agree with what was said about the traffic. I feel like everywhere I drive now, the traffic, it's just insane. It's such a difference. in the last, very short, I don't understand what happened. But I look around, it's just the traffic, it makes you wanna just, I don't know. Just crazy. I have one more question. And
There's
this
only
is,
one more.
yeah, I always say that, this is, I try to stop saying that, this is my last question, I try to stop saying it. So yeah, okay, caught me. So this is about your report, Elaine, that we gave out tonight. And it may be in there and you may have said it, so I'll apologize in advance. But I'm wondering, you mentioned about measuring the impact of these studies. So I'm like, what is it? What constitutes the impacts? Like, is that defined? Is that concrete?
There are very specific impact criteria that are in the village code. It involves the number of seconds of delay that a vehicle will experience at an intersection. It involves the queue length, basically how many cars are waiting at an intersection, or just making sure that these specific criteria set out in the village code are met. So without getting too into details, it's just making sure that the traffic doesn't get too much worse than it already is or will be in the future.
That's what the code says.
Yes.
And this project adds a little more delay than the baseline that AKRF did, I don't know, whatever number of years ago. But the delay is within the delay allowed in the code. So say, I'll pick a number, say the delay is 10, this is at 8. So that there is going to be delay, but it's an allowable delay by the code the trustees passed.
If you have
So-
any more specific questions.
So it's not, it's like, okay. And who's going to be evaluating that and measuring that?
Well, that's what the implementation plan.
So as for implementation studies, it is the responsibility of the applicant's traffic engineer to conduct the study, and then the village would conduct a review of the study. This is standard. The applicant would pay for both the study and also the review of the study.
To me, that feels like the fox watching the hen house kind of deal. And wouldn't we, so just a brainstorm idea, what if we paid the money and paid our police force to monitor traffic there? And do they know what's going on the street?
One of the words, trust but verify. There's cameras involved, which.
Who's going to look at the
would-
camera?
Yes, we will do counts from the videos that are taken.
I feel like our police should be.
You can't afford their
The
overtime.
police can't do traffic
It's
analysis.
a cost. It's a cost of.
You
the-
can't afford their overtime.
Well, I can't, but it's a cost of the project. Anyway, thank you very
The
much.
police do get involved. They rush up to Broadway to direct traffic because I guess they have cameras that they can see what's going on. They do respond to critical situations when backlog overflows.
I have a lot more questions, but I'm going to keep to my word.
Thank you.
Yes, Walter.
You still have to identify yourself.
I'm Walter Montgomery. Coincidentally, I live at 7 Strawberry Lane.
Okay, thank you.
One more. My current village role, which goes back actually 10 years, I'm part of a group called Traffic Calming Irvington, Traffic Calming Committee, appointed by the Board of Trustees. And we met with the Board of Trustees this past Monday in a public session and said that one of the things we want to do now, we have a history, by the way, of recommending things to the police, to the village administrator, to the board, certain actions that they then follow through on or they simply rejected. But in any event, we said that we feel it's appropriate for us now to get involved with this particular project and the traffic and pedestrian safety issues that it may present. So the mayor is going, in his last mayor's letter, is going to say to people, not about this project specifically, but about safety in general, please contact our group with any issues you might have so that our group can then look at them. We're not traffic experts. And by the way, we're neither for nor against this project. But we will look at the issues, whatever they might be, regarding this project or anything else for that matter, as we have in the past, and then get back to the board of trustees with our thoughts on what measures might be taken. So we'd like to work with a more or less complete inventory of the mitigation and safety measures that the applicant is taking. And we would invite the public to please contact our group.
Microphone.
We would like to invite the group, the public, to contact our group with any issues that you might have so that we can then write them down, analyze them, and get back to the board of trustees. So, thank you.
Walter, how did they contact you?
In the mayor's letter, there's going to be a website address you can contact. You can also call me personally if you want to. 917-340-0251.
Just knock on your door.
That's on 7 Strawberry Lane, right across from the project, by the way. And this is a selfish personal matter. This is one more, sorry. The trees along the property on Strawberry Lane, an arborist that we hired said that 1 or 2 or more of those trees present a real safety issue in a high wind storm. They're tall, and tonight's a good example, yes, and they could come down and hurt not just our house, but perhaps other houses. So hopefully there'd be different coverage. That's my one selfish point. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Keep in mind in sharpening your pencil, the trustees may come to you with this question. We're talking about the left-hand turn lane.
Oh, yes, right. Maybe people here will too. Thank you.
Yes, in the back.
Hello, Paul Kirby, 85 North Broadway. I live right, as you're aware, I live right across from the development. And the number of parking spots really still concerns me. Outside of a lot of people go to work at a certain time and they'll be dropping off. It won't be that perfect staggering.
When you said the parking spots, you're talking about the parking spots on the.
Yeah, on the property.
On
And the 10 or, which seems woefully inadequate. My kids go to daycare, preschool down the street, and it's a much smaller school, and they have like at least 30 spots, maybe 50. And blocking it pretty full. But are there going to be any events at this place? How are they going to accommodate events? For example, there's like a holiday, my kid's school, there's a holiday concert, or having the parents in the classroom come in for the first day to meet the teacher for the first week. There's all these events that go throughout the year. And additionally, even like on a nice spring day, let's say it's the first day of spring outside of the normal testing they did, kids are going to want to stay around to play on the playground. It's just 10 spots for a school this size, it's not adequate. And it could back up on the Broadway, which is a major safety concern. And then just one thing on the runoff, which is another major concern. I think last time it was discussed, it's a 100-year storm. Just this past summer, there was like 4 inches of rain. I had to drop off our babysitter at the train station. And driving, we had to go to Terrytown first of all, because the Irvington train station was flooded. All the roads on Broadway and Irvington, water was flying everywhere. I got to Terrytown. That wasn't an issue. It seems like we have an issue here, so I would really recommend adding more water to Broadway and considering a more conservative standard. You know, there's like the 500-year storm standard. Because even the 100-year standard, Ida almost hit that, and that was only 4 or 5 years ago. So with climate change, you're going to have a lot more of those types of storms. So there are major concerns.
Thank you. Kathy. It was a good question on events, parking for events.
So-
You could cover that,
So
or
it's
if you
not-
can't, cover it next time.
Yes, I'll get a detailed response on that, but just want to make clear, there's not just 10 parking spaces for the school. There's, for 50 units, the code requires 1.5 parking spaces, that's 75. And the remaining spaces are, there's 36 spaces.
If those are the underground.
Right.
Right.
That's for staff too, right?
Right.
So those are available, I'm just,
The total parking spaces are 111 parking spaces.
And
yes, it's a quick question. How many staff are there? Because it seems like a big school. What's the staff that's going to be occupying those spots? And they serve food there. There'd have to be cafeteria staff, right?
I don't have that.
all right, work on that parking.
we understand the point.
Are those spots also for the residents too?
Well, she explained, if you couldn't hear, there's 50 units and the code requires 1.5 parking spaces, which would be 75. That would be reserved for the units, and the rest, what was the rest of the number, 36?
36. And there's also shared parking too, so when the residences leave, there's not assigned parking.
I'm not saying we satisfactorily answered that question tonight, so you're gonna work on it.
So 46 are available for this group.
You mentioned the shared parking.
So we did provide, and Carlito's on the phone, we can, or on the Zoom, we can speak to it. We did do a shared parking analysis also.
So it's conceivable that you would allow staff of the school and or parents to use the parking reserved for residents who have cars that park there. So someone could come back and
Carlito?
not be able to find a spot.
Hey, hi, this is Carlito. Everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think what we're saying is by code, we have to reserve 75 spaces for the residents. So those would be designated resident only parking.
Okay.
And then there's an additional 36, which would be unassigned, which just by the nature of how the residential demand drops during the day when residents leave to go to work or do whatever else they're doing during the day, those spaces become available to the staff. And in the instance that a parent or guardian needs to pick up and drop off, they can use space there too as well.
So there's no reserved for the staff in the underground parking, just flex space essentially that should be available but not reserved.
It's not currently reserved. It would just be open space. There could be a restriction if necessary placed on it through signage or a permit. But just by nature of how the traffic or the parking demand dissipates for the residential, those undesignated spaces would be available to the staff and parents.
Okay.
And you need to come up with some more details on this. To address the likelihood of an event. There's always gonna be an event, parent-teacher night or something.
But I think that based on what was just said, and maybe this has already been reviewed, but if it's not staff reserved parking, and theoretically residents can also park there,
Mm-hmm.
then there's no control over whether or not staff won't find parking spots. And flowing into the 10 parking spots that are really there for pickup.
Yeah. Okay.
I know it's probably unlikely, but not unforeseeable, given how much people like cars.
Take a look at that. Anybody else?
And we have Stephen on the Zoom.
You're gonna repeat what you already said or what somebody else said?
Nope.
Save a lot of time. Okay.
Appreciate it. Hi, Anthony Altamiro, One Bedrock Road. Back in August when we met, the folks at INAT had asked that the planning board ask the building inspector to provide a determination on the question of permitted use. Because we were of the view that this daycare facility and the preschool
do not qualify as a school. At that time, you basically said that you didn't want to ask the building inspector to do that, and then the village attorney rendered an oral opinion about the issue, and then we moved on. At the last meeting, you mentioned that before that issue comes up again, you recognize that we filed an application to the Zoning Board of Appeals to take a look at that question. We thought that it's possible that what had taken place back in August constituted a determination, and we felt to protect our rights, we had to file the appeal and bring it before the ZBA to have them take a look at it. As you probably know, they met last week and basically advised us that, I think it was based on advice of counsel, that it was for jurisdictional reasons it wasn't right for appeal. There wasn't a determination that had been made formally by the building inspector, so there wasn't something that they could look at and provide their interpretation. So effectively, the ZBA said that there's no formal determination made on the issue of permitted use. The building inspector has not rendered an opinion on his interpretation. He's the administrative officer responsible for providing interpretations of what's a permitted use in the first instance, and he hasn't done that. What we have is a village attorney oral opinion from the August meeting that, and what you've said about how you're prepared to sort of move on, but there has not been, as a legal matter, a determination of this sort of gating issue. So I'm wondering if we could ask once again, if you would consider requesting that the building inspector provide a determination, formal determination as to whether or not the daycare operation and the preschool operation qualify as a permitted use. We think that it's critical that this be issued. It's unbelievable that, in our view, that we've gone this far and we're picking out the wallpaper, and we don't even know if this is legally permissible. And one last thing I'll mention is that under our code, if any part of a building is impermissible, the entire building is ineligible for a special permit. And this was broken up into 3 buildings. Maybe there was a way to get around that, but now you're looking at a single building. So this is a critical gating issue, and it hasn't been addressed as a matter of law. We think the proper approach here would be to ask for a determination from the building inspector. You asked for a legal opinion from the village attorney. She gave it to you. That's fine, but it's, quite frankly, it's not germane to this question. It's the building inspector who has the authority under the code to provide the determination that would be binding on this committee. As you know, the planning board is not permitted, it's not authorized to make a determination. It's the building inspector who does that, and it's the zoning board that then, to which that determination can be appealed. So please consider that.
I think we went over this several times, and I'll just repeat what I said. One, it's not the planning board function to do what you want, to say whether the school meets, whether or not this facility is a school or not. We're focusing on the traffic, so we're not making that determination. And as far as telling the building inspector as a unpaid volunteer, I don't get to tell anybody anything. And as far as what Mary Ann may have said, she just read case law, and I'll leave her speak for herself about what was that. Did that constitute an opinion?
It was an opinion, but there's no need to repeat it.
So, and Mike, you had a point about that it's not going away when the time comes for the building inspector to act on a piece of paper that he receives, an application for a building permit or whatever it is. He will decide, and then once he decides based on what's before him, that would be your opportunity to go to the ZBA. And incidentally, Sarah Gardner is a lawyer, so he's not without some legal knowledge.
Yeah, my main point is that,
You made several points, if you're just gonna repeat it.
okay, it is within your prerogative to ask the building inspector for advice on this issue. It's basically, it's the reason why he's sitting here, is to
I'm
provide.
glad you're telling me what I need to do.
I'm not telling you what you need to do, I'm saying it's within your prerogative.
You think it is, I don't.
In the code. You should look at it.
Anybody else? 10 o'clock.
No,
Kathy, you got anything?
we have the traffic consultant.
Oh, right, yeah, sorry. Thanks, Ed.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Steve Maffia for INET. I believe the board has my latest letter dated November 3rd. I would just quickly summarize a few of the conclusions and emphasize some points. I also think that there's general agreement that the applicant's proposed mitigations produce what we've been calling razor thin margins in order to keep the project impacts just barely within the code parameters. We believe, and I think the board is in agreement that that the board has the prerogative or the discretion to look at mitigations or possible mitigations that give you in the village a little bit more than these razor thin margins of error. And I'm glad to see the board look at the left turn lane extension concept plan and say that the 10 feet that was originally proposed didn't leave much room for error, and ask that it be widened, and that's what we're looking at now. That's that's a good sign. That's the kind of thinking in a conservative way that should be applied to other mitigation measures that were proposed at other locations. Give us a little bit of buffer, a little bit of wiggle room, if you will, so that we're not that close to failure if there's just one slight difference in what the applicant is estimating. There are some other issues that I mentioned in the letter. The left turn storage lane, again, there's a slightly more detailed drawing that we're looking at, but I would like to see one that has real measurements in it, and I believe that the board has asked for that, and that's a good thing. There's a sketch that I produced, which obviously showed that what they originally came back with wasn't going to work. But this is all, I guess, still up in the air, because if that mitigation ends up being the option that reduces or removes the parking spaces on the north side of Main Street, then that's something that has to go to the Board of Trustees in order to approve. So the effectiveness of that mitigation is unknown at this point. I would also add to that I had questions about the distribution of traffic to and from Main Street from the north side, which would impact the left turn lane. I think that the applicant's estimate was low, and that if it's even a slightly bit higher than what they're estimating, the 10-foot increase in the length of the storage lane may not work and may need to be even longer, and that would change the overall design of that extension. In terms of the post-implementation study, I would like to ask that I be given a chance to review it and send in a letter, which is what I'm preparing to do. But the comments that I have right now are that the review and comment be part of what the public gets to see once the studies are done, and that those studies also be required to include other developments in the MFO district for one, and also elsewhere in the village that would generate traffic that would end up on Broadway. We don't just want to use the base traffic volume from counts and then whatever the traffic volume is that would be generated by the site if it were increased to a larger number of children enrolled there, or if the staggering was changed back to just a peak hour. Also, just a reminder to be cautious about that staggering because, as I've said before and was mentioned tonight, by moving these trips to and from the site out of the peak hour, you're expanding the peak hour into the hours before and after. And what you're going to end up with over time is a peak 2 hour time period instead of a peak hour. That essentially is what I wanted to talk about. Again, it's best to have that little bit of buffer, that little bit of wiggle room, so that we're not so close to a potential failure. I did have a thought about it. I'm going to throw it out. The post-implementation study takes a look at traffic after a development is built with a certain number of students. In this case, we're looking at 155 children enrolled at the daycare and 50 dwelling units. It's an after the fact kind of thing where this before and after study looks at the most development that can happen with these razor thin margins. And I always thought that there could be a better way of doing that if you started with a smaller enrollment, say around 90 students, and then after it, do a post-implementation study that looks at the 6 month how it's working, assuming that at the 90 student level, conditions along Broadway and at the side streets is acceptable. And then come back after the post-implementation study and say, well, everything's good. With other development, we're looking at this kind of traffic volumes along the Broadway corridor in some future year, 2027, 2028, whatever it might be. And then have the applicant come back and say, I'd like to expand my enrollment up to the next level, 125 students, because we think we have the room to add that. So instead of trying to backtrack and add more mitigation, let's consider looking at less mitigation to start with the potential, if there's room, to expand to a larger development. So that I wanted that to be something out there that you can consider, that maybe the applicant would consider as well. Thank you. Appreciate your time, and if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Elaine, you looked at that.
I did. I looked at the letter. I have responses to each of these, but I'd like to address the points that Mr. Matthew had brought up tonight. In terms of a greater buffer, the applicant first started with 180. There were issues fully mitigating 180, so they went down to 176. 176 was where we really had the razor thin margins, which was when planning board came back and asked, what if you reduce the number of students again? That's when we got to 155. And they proved 155 is viable, 176 is viable. They both work. I'm comfortable with 155 working. I don't think there's a need to go down to 90. In terms of the percentages of vehicles to and from Main Street, they did have 8% of their vehicles turning out and into Main Street. I think this is a reasonable assumption. A lot of folks will be coming to and from 287. We also looked at people coming to and from the south. We looked at 50-50. We looked at all of these scenarios. I think we've moved beyond that, and ultimately we can't predict exactly where people are coming from. It's up to the post-implementation study and fully understanding and quantifying all these numbers. In terms of, Mr. Maffei also mentioned that the post-implementation study should also include future development in the MFO, other developments that may come on board. I need to state that the applicant should not be responsible for mitigating the traffic impacts of other developments. Other developments should be responsible for conducting their own traffic impact studies and mitigating their own impacts. Therefore, unless the traffic is already on the roads, I don't think they should not be responsible for including future MFO developments. Other future MFO developments should include the daycare. In terms of shifting of the peak hour and creating essentially 2 peak hours, I also want to state again, the applicant did analyze the AM peak hour, the AM off-peak hour, the midday school dismissal time, the PM peak hour, and the PM off-peak hour. That is 5 scenarios. They've analyzed all 5. They've shown that the mitigation measures proposed work for all 5. Therefore, I don't have any concerns in terms of quote unquote the shifting of the peak hour or the spreading of the peak hour. They've already been analyzed, and in the post-implementation study, all 5 of these peak hours will again be reviewed in detail. That's it for my responses.
So
May I
let me,
respond to that?
Stephen, let me just ask my question, okay?
Sure.
Is there a value? What I'm hearing Mr. Maffei suggest is at something less than 155 to do a count in order to know whether staggering is working. So is there a number at which that makes sense? He threw out 99, I don't, but is there a number below 155 at which it makes sense to judge whether people are observing the staggering? Because it doesn't take much to do the counts.
Yeah, so that's already included as part of the post-implementation study. We are proposing that the applicant needs to count the driveway every 2 months. So that's already included.
Even if they don't meet full
Yes,
occupancy.
exactly.
Right. So we're going to know right away.
Correct.
All right, Mr. Maffei, continue.
Yes. Thank you. Just a couple of comments on what Elaine was just talking about. The 155, that was a number we got to where with additional analysis by the applicant, we still got to a point where with that staggering had to be implemented. So it wasn't just that it was a comfortable number, it was still producing results that were barely getting us to a point where the items in the code were being met. So I think that it's a little bit misleading to say that 155 is a number that it makes sense at this point. Because the mitigation just is barely doing it as far as meeting the code. There's also the issue of the distribution of trips. And again, it's another razor thin situation where the applicant is mitigating, as Elaine had stated, just back to the no build condition. And found that what they needed to do that was a 10-foot extension, which isn't even the length of a car at this point. And what I'm looking for basically is just some confirmation that with a slightly higher percentage of left turns, because the distribution to Main Street is higher, that 10 feet is still enough, or should it be 20 feet or 25 feet, or at least the car length over the course of the hour? I think the points that I'm making are reasonable because, we're looking at a situation where we're really not sure what's going to happen. And it's generated this idea that we have to do a post-implementation study. We don't know right now, so let's try to find out after it's done. And, you know, barn door horse situation here, you know, that's why I'm suggesting that that at the outset, the applicant is looking at a much smaller enrollment and then seeking to expand that if after the development takes place and it's open and operating, some follow-up studies can show that there's room for them to expand, and then see how far they can go in increments rather than trying to back up from an enrollment that's just too big.
Okay. So to your point of quote unquote, I guess you're basically saying 155 barely works, or 155 is only shown to work with staggering. I don't disagree. 155 is shown to work without staggering. However, the applicant is proposing to stagger trips. Through the post-implementation study, we will verify that staggering is happening. And in addition, if the applicant at any point intends to remove the staggering, they would need to study that, prove it, show the planning board that it works without any additional impacts, and then they can go ahead with it. Thus, I don't think we're at a point where we're saying 155 barely works. I believe 155 does work with staggering based on the analysis. In terms of distribution of the trips, sorry, I guess not fully distribution of the trips. We're going back to the eastbound left turn lane on Main Street and looking at shifting the volumes to increase the eastbound left turn. It is 3 vehicles that they're adding there. I believe under the 176 condition, it was more vehicles, and that was why they had 10 feet. Under the 155 condition, the increase in queue between no builds and builds is actually closer to 5 feet, 3 feet. It's much smaller. And so therefore 10 feet is still, based on their numbers, based on the analysis, based on the code, is sufficient to mitigate the impact. And the planning board has already spoken about eliminating those 2 parking spaces so you could extend the left turn lane even more. So that is also a possibility. Lastly, in terms of the post-implementation study being an exercise where we're trying to figure out after it works, that's not the purpose of a post-implementation study. Post-implementation studies are used when you have a project that has a complex set of mitigation measures. They are to ensure that the mitigation measures are implemented, that they work, that they're operating as needed. Based on the analysis, 155, 167, the analysis shows that it works. We're just trying to make sure that ultimately we had a lot of questions about the trip distribution. We had a lot of questions about staggering. We're trying to validate everything, making sure everything's up to code. The applicant also intends to potentially increase the student population from 155 to 176 and potentially remove staggering. And the purpose of this post-implementation study is to make sure that these work. So again, we'll make sure it works through the post-implementation study and then figure out if it does work. And at that point, you either give permission for the applicant to move forward or you don't. That's the purpose of the study.
Okay.
Well, I understand the purpose of post-implementation studies.
Hold on. We could go on for 2 hours here, dueling technicalities. You said you didn't have a chance to really fully review the implementation. So why don't you take time to do that? And if you have other technical questions, put them in writing. Troy Elaine will take a hard look at all the things you need to say.
That's fine. I'll do that. Thank you.
Yes, Peter.
Thank you. It's Peter McCallick from Strawberry Lane. Just on those dueling technicalities, I think I've mentioned these turning movement diagrams before. They're just extremely helpful if you're ever looking at a way of making sense of the numbers that are going flying back and forth. So this is just figure 8 from the August 2025 submission. It's the latest of these. So we have Stephen saying that the number should be 15% distribution from Main Street, and we have Elaine saying she's comfortable with 8%, as I understand it. I just want to show you what 8% actually looks like in the real world. So at the AM peak, 63 enrollees, okay? And then 20 apartments on top of that. 50 apartments with 20 trips, so a total of 74 trips. 74 trips, they're showing exactly 2 cars arriving in the AM peak, even though you have 63 enrollees. That does sound a little low. I think if you've ever been stuck behind like a school bus, like going down Main Street trying to catch a train, and you have the kids at every corner waiting, it seems like there's this endless amount of children in the Main Street area. And it's a little hard to believe that only 2 cars would be coming from Main Street for that AM peak arrival time at the Primrose. So that's what the 8% looks like. And given that it's such a fraught intersection to begin with, it seems like, maybe this is a place where the analysis could be a little more conservative. Elaine, sorry, I know looks like you're. Okay, I guess I just wanted to ask you about the incorporation of 88 North Broadway, which is that's the property to the north that figured in the village traffic study 4 years ago when the rezoning happened. I think that's what Stephen was alluding to, that should also be incorporated. And I think your point is that the applicant shouldn't be responsible for mitigating somebody else's traffic.
So is 88 North Broadway Toll Brothers?
No.
Okay, which one? What year was it completed?
No, it's the other commercial buildings.
In the MFO.
What year was it completed?
No, I guess.
Oh, it's sold. Yeah, so if it has not been built, if the traffic study has not been conducted yet, it's only, we don't know what's going to be there, so it's hard to speculate, and therefore, whatever developer ends up developing that site will be responsible for studying that site.
Right, okay, so I think that makes sense, but I think, are you speaking really from like what the DOT is looking for, or what we're responsible for doing under seeker? So
both.
Okay, so under seeker, my understanding is that you're looking for anything that's reasonably foreseeable, even if you have to do a little bit of work to get, even if you have relatively imprecise projections. So
Yes, but I'm not talking about projections. It's a matter of build year. So for instance, if this development is completed in, let's say, 2028, but that development will be completed in 2030, we don't typically include future developments beyond our build year as part of a traffic study. That is New York State DOT standard, that is seeker standard, that is a standard traffic impact study.
And so am I wrong in thinking that when the Board of Trustees looked at this issue 4 years ago and decided to actually make, I think with AKRS assistance, some kind of projection for that site, that did they actually have to pick a build year for that?
I did not do that study. Marianne, I'm not sure if a full traffic study was completed for that.
It was just a back of the envelope study.
Right. But I mean, I think the argument is that it should be treated something like Marker Ridge, Toll Brothers, and that it is reasonably foreseeable that something will go up there relatively soon. Eric.
Toll Brothers is built. Toll Brothers has a build year before this development. So if, again, 88 North Broadway has a build year outside of the development, it's typically not included.
Even if it hits sort of year 3.
Correct.
And then on that build year question, actually, I was just wondering, are you comfortable going with the build year of 2027, given that we're already at the end of 2025?
I can't comment on that. You'll have to direct the question to the applicant.
Oh, okay. Well, is the applicant still there?
right there.
It's sitting there.
Is there any, are there any plans to update the traffic study so that it's more in line with the more likely completion date of the project, right? You're talking about, I think, 24 to 30 months. So that would put us into 2028.
I think it's a good question if we're using a build date in the traffic study that was provided a year ago. Unless at that time you have the same exact expectation of build start date, that's something that might need to be updated. I think that's your question, Peter, right?
I just assumed it would be, since.
So I guess the question is, was it updated? Is it still on the same build date, start date that we started with a year ago?
As far as I know, the build year hasn't changed in terms of the analysis, but I defer to the applicant to confirm
Yeah,
whether or not the project will complete it in that year.
What's the relevance if we don't have there is no project proposed on 88 North Broadway?
Right, and
There's nothing proposed.
There was also no project proposed 4 years ago when the Board of Trustees did that. So,
But even if they were to change their build date now to 2028, we're still left with nothing proposed at 88 North Broadway, right? Okay, so any build year for that would be it's not even a guess. So I'm just wondering what difference. So if it might matter if in the intervening time something happens at 88 North Broadway.
I would put it in the category of things like complete streets, where maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. I understand that there's some opinion in the room that it won't happen, but it is something that, from a planning perspective, should be reckoned with at some level. And I think the model that the BOT followed 4 years ago seems sensible. Well, let's just, in the interest of a conservative analysis, assume that what the BOT wanted to happen happens at 88 North Broadway. Let's see what that looks like.
As Mike said, I agree with you. The relevance is, you might want to there is a point there to update the build out date. It's obviously changed because of the length of review. But I'm not sure.
Under secret, we're supposed to study the impacts from our project.
Yeah.
Right, and anything that would be part of a master project. There is no master project for this developer to develop that site. So how would we even go about studying the impacts from a non-existent project that hasn't even been?
And to agree with you.
As I said, it's in more in the category of complete streets. So on that note, I was wondering if we're going to be, can we expect to see an updated complete streets study? I'll just remind you that the one that the applicant provided back in September 2024 used the old 3-lane design.
I defer to Carlito to answer this one.
I mean, as far as our application in association with the DOT project, we have been providing DOT with our information and traffic studies to incorporate into their engineering and planning study.
Okay, it's just that the actual study that you provided back in September 2024 was based on the old study. It's a study that essentially we never. Moving on. I just wanted to come back to something I mentioned in my email about the impact on land analysis under seeker. So I saw a reference in the submission to the volume of excavated material, but the actual number, as far as I could tell, is not given. I was just wondering if the applicant actually had the most recent estimate of how many tons of material will be excavated.
You know,
It's a civil drawing, so.
but I saw it somewhere. Yeah.
There was a study, earthwork calculations that were performed on an earlier version of the plan, but we will be looking to update based on our current layout and updated grading plan to give specific numbers on what the cuts and fill conditions are for the site.
I recall a lot, there was a portion of just what you said, cut and fill, going on, and then there was a net, going off site.
That's correct. There's an excess of excavated material that will have to be removed. While there is a fill condition on portion of the site, there will be material remaining that will have to be removed.
Okay, so are we still in the neighborhood of 75,000?
I can't answer that right now, but I do know that there is a significant amount of material that would have to be exported off the site.
Okay, I just bring it up because, as you know, under the environmental assessment form, they tell you right at the top that anything that exceeds a numeric threshold contained in the question should result in the reviewing agency checking the box, moderate to large impact may occur. So in other words, it's essentially de facto significant. And so the threshold for this question is 1,000 tons. So I'm just wondering if we can expect an environmental impact statement on impact on land.
We're gonna wait to see what they come up. Hypothetical.
Also, just those numbers are, if it's that without mitigation, we'll see what the mitigation is.
Thank you, and I do appreciate that you advised the applicant of that a few months ago, which is why I was just following up. And just a couple of questions about the survey that I wrote about. There was a reference to an updated survey a few months ago. I don't think I saw it come in. I was wondering when we can expect that.
Trevor said we're going to provide an updated survey. We're not going to resurvey the site. We provided the survey.
Okay. It was along the lines of, we will be doing additional survey work and we will be reporting that at the June meeting. Did that happen?
I'm not sure what's being referred to. We never said we're
I'm
going
referring
provide
to your
an
cover
additional
letter from
survey.
May. Okay, I just think, it's a $30 million project. Maybe we should have an accurate survey.
We do have an accurate survey. It's not accurate about our survey.
As I mentioned in a couple of emails, you might have seen, there are 4 wall supports that are missing from the survey that goes against coverage. It wouldn't be such a big deal, except you guys are constantly over coverage.
That's one of the items that have been ongoing discussions on coverage.
There's a little bit of work to do still.
Okay. And then finally, just to Tony's point about places where you could have meaningful, significant traffic impacts that don't actually violate the traffic code. I'm thinking of like an obvious one, which I think everyone would agree. Like the site driveway, because it's a new intersection, doesn't fall under the 3-prong code that's in the MFO, right? But I think everyone would agree that if that were like an F on day one, that would probably be a bad idea, especially because, it's the Broadway corridor. We want it to look its best. I mean, left turns are out of there are a nightmare. So I think even under the old standard, before there was a numeric code, would have considered that an significant adverse impact. I mean, some of these things are probably not as nebulous as you might think. So I think Tony was trying to say. Thank you.
Anything, Dan?
In terms of an impact at the driveway, typically in a traffic impact study, when a driveway approach like the proposed driveway at the site, if just the driveway is operating at LOS E or F, that is their problem. It's kept on site in terms of the vehicles queuing out. We don't consider that an impact in terms of a traffic impact study. So I I don't see that as an issue. But I also want to state that, again, this intersection will be studied multiple times as part of a post-implementation study.
I'm sorry, but thank you. You actually, in a way, helped make the point. I think you're absolutely right. It's Peter McCallick from Strawberry Lane. I think you're absolutely right that I'm sure from a traffic engineering perspective, what you said is absolutely impeccably sound. But from a planning perspective, you know, having all that traffic on one 4-acre lot in the middle of a residential neighborhood doesn't seem like such a great idea. I feel like that is where we need the planning board to assert itself. That's all I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah, okay.
I'll be quick. So my name is Haskell Milishef. I live in Ardsley Avenue. So I live on the other end of town. Not directly involved, you know, exactly with this development. I just want to say a couple of things. One is, can you hear me okay? Yeah. So the first is about, you know, these meetings, and I just want to say that it's actually really hard for a lot of people to come here. You said that, you know, these meetings are on Zoom, you know, they're at night, but it's still really hard. And I think the people that are here really are impacted very strongly by this. But I think the bigger, you know, there are a lot of people in town that have opinions on this that you won't see at these meetings. And one thing I want to say technically about the Zoom and audio is I tuned in via Zoom last time, and it was really hard to hear some people. There were some people I had no idea what they were saying. The audio was cutting in and out. It was just impossible to make sense of what was going on. And that's just a minor point, but you know, and I know you monitored the audio, and I really appreciate it. But I feel like I don't want to, you know, say that, you know, we can discount all the previous meetings because the town didn't hear it. But you know, there are parts of it that, you know, people that are interested can tune in for 10 minutes or something. They'll tune out because they can't hear what's going on, and they don't really understand the issues. The other thing I wanted to kind of just point out, and you know, and I'll say this because I live on the other end of town, and last time we heard from one of my neighbors, Chris Lando, who talked about traffic on Broadway. And I just want to say that, you know, that there are a couple of aspects to this project that don't really align with what people want in the town. And people, you know, this board has, you know, has experts that are obviously very capable, and you often, you know, delve into the fine details. And in some respect, it seems minutiae. You try to decide whether this is a good idea, whether it meets all of the criteria or not. But I'll tell you that a lot of people, at least some of these people here in the audience, don't believe it. They just don't believe it, you know, and that should say something, that maybe there is a little bit of wisdom in the crowd as to what people really think, whether they really think that the, you know, ironclad post-mitigation study will actually work, or whether there's easy ways around it, can be easily manipulated or so forth. The other thing is, you know, as I mentioned earlier about, you know, like about a lot of this has to do with how you predict the future. You know, what do we actually think will happen? And you use details from experts, obviously, that's very good. That's a way to inform yourself. But then if you look at the crowd and the wisdom of the crowd, we're kind of informed by our own life experiences. You know, I have kids, they've been in daycare, I've lived in apartments, I know what parking is like. You know, it's actually really hard to find parking, even when you have a designated parking spot, because people take it. People have friends coming over, and they take a spot. And that's just one detail where, you know, even the best laid simulations fall apart. I think last time, Mr. Smith, you had a discussion with Peter Michalik about predicting the future, and your point was, well, it's really hard to predict the future, if I understood correctly. And that's why we need a post-mitigation study. And yet we kind of are predicting the future with simulations, and we use margins, which I assume are, what, 95% confidence intervals, and we decide if that's, no? No. Okay.
I don't need to elaborate further, but there are no margins of error with respect to traffic impact studies.
Okay, she means it's not this, you know, you do mathematics or building a bridge. The answer is 10 plus or minus 1. I think that's what she means.
So we don't have confidence intervals. We have
I don't
margins,
think
but
there's a
we
plus
don't
or
have,
minus answer.
we don't have margins.
No, it's just.
So what is the discussion about razor thin margins then?
In terms of razor thin margins, that is the difference between the projected operation and the threshold at which it is considered an impact. That's the only margin. There is no quote unquote margin of error. The traffic impact study is just an empirical result.
Wait, an empirical result. I mean, we're
I might be using the word empirical wrong. It is just a number. There is no plus or minus. It is just the delay number.
So it's a.
I think Caesar was talking about razor sharp as close to the minimum. You have to meet a certain minimum, and it's like on the border, which is what he was uncomfortable with.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, I think
that's what.
No, I understand. I mean, I'll be honest. I tuned in last time, and this was an education for me as to what the planning board does and what you consider and how this process works. But more so to what I was saying earlier about listening to people and life experiences and maybe some deviations from some of these simulations that have these exact numbers that meet a threshold or do not meet a threshold. There's always some uncertainty, and you hear a lot from people in the town about the uncertainty of predicting things and other developments. And then the last thing is I just want to kind of get back to complete streets, because I think there was this issue about taking using this development in by itself because it has a build date of 2028 and then ignoring complete streets because it's not funded. But in my understanding, complete streets is submitted for approval supposedly this fall. Of course, the government is shut down, so it's probably not happening anytime soon. But it's still moving along. Am I wrong about that? Fall of 2025 was the projected approval from the Federal Highway Administration. It's not happening right now. Maybe it'll be 2026, but it's hard to ignore. I mean, if it's kind of moving along and there's nothing really standing in its way other than the process of it playing out, which is really uncertain. But more so to that, and I think there was a discussion earlier about walking in town, right? And one of the people in the audience said that, well, he doesn't cross Broadway. No one crosses Broadway. And I think you pointed out that, well, people walk and traffic patterns change, based on the amount of traffic. But, one of the things that Complete Streets does is that it lets people cross Broadway easier. And it develops a plan to solve a problem that we want to solve, which is Broadway traffic is hazardous. We want to be able to cross Broadway, walk along Broadway, bike along Broadway, preserve the historic character of Broadway that serves our town. That is kind of a project that starts to take everybody, all the stakeholders into account and tries to solve a problem. Whereas, the plan here is to put in a hawk signal, to put in a traffic light so people can cross the street and then traffic will be easier. Well, I mean, the right way to do it is for our town to plan it and to make a proposal to the state to implement it, because that will serve the residents of Irvington the best, don't you think?
Caesar, Elaine has to respond.
To clarify, the complete streets, the lane reduction along Broadway was analyzed. It was analyzed. Carlito, I don't know if you remember. I think you did both 2 and 3 lanes in your scenarios. And I also want to clarify, traffic analysis, which is what we're conducting, is not a simulation. It is the application of federal standards of various equations that compute traffic flow and then delay. It is just a single number. Again, it's not a simulation. But Carlito, are you on to confirm on complete streets?
Yeah, our September, the original traffic study had a sensitivity analysis in it, considering those complete streets. But as I mentioned earlier, since that time, and we've been engaging with DOT, they've been taking any updated analysis in trip generation and putting it into their engineering and planning studies.
Okay. So, the kind of the last point is maybe that I want to make is about kind of, the timeline that we're looking at. We're concerned about 2028 post-implementation, and we saw beautiful pictures of the development earlier. I thought they were very nice, but there were some lovely trees there. I mean, those trees look like they were almost mature trees. It's like I'm not a tree expert, but that seems like a 30-year time span for those trees to grow.
I think Mike Vogel asked that question, or Lori. We want to see what's actually
right.
And plus, those locations of the rendering were not where our landscape architect agrees with. The whole planting plan is on hold.
my point is that we're looking at different timescales, and we're kind of like mixing things together. Maybe that's what timescale are we really looking at for the implementation of the post mitigation plan here, for the follow-up. I'm saying that if we're looking at, if I know the trees are out of the picture, so I'm not arguing anymore, but what we have to consider what this will look like in 20 years. I mean, it's hard to predict, right? It's hard to predict, and this is why I'm saying that looking at minutia and the opinion of experts is informative, but sometimes, an easy way to get past all of this kind of cacophony of all of these numbers and all these analysis is just to consider the wisdom of the crowd and what people really want and what they want for the future of Irvington and how this project meets that or doesn't meet it. The last time my neighbor Chris Landau spoke, I think if I was going to interpret what he was trying to say is that Broadway has a lot of problems, and the real problem we should be looking at is how to change Broadway to make it safer and better for our town. And we should consider any kind of development on Broadway, whether it meets that kind of goal. Because it's really hard for me to cross Broadway without getting hit by a car like that. And so it is for him and a lot of other kids and parents that do this every day. Because there's no crosswalk, and Broadway's 4 lanes across. And if you increase traffic on Broadway, it's going to get worse. And this is what I'm saying about people don't believe it. The people in the crowd here don't believe it because they know that traffic will get worse. They know it's bad now, and we're not doing anything to make it better. We're making it 10% worse, maybe. I'm done.
Yeah, but you don't seem to understand that this is somebody's private property. Just like if you owned a piece of property, you wanted to build something on it that was within code, you would want to be allowed to build it regardless of whatever your neighbors said about it, even if they didn't want it, even if they didn't want it in their neighborhood. As long you would say as the property owner that I have the right within code to build it. Our challenge that we were handed by the Board of Trustees was we are allowing the development of this property on Broadway to allow for residential and whatever other uses, and there's a dispute over whether it's a permitted use, but putting that to the side. A residential development on Broadway is what the Board of Trustees wanted, recognizing that it was going to negatively affect traffic on Broadway because they devised a system, standards, that allowed for a certain amount of negative effect. Our challenge is working within that. All right? So the idea that there's a lot of people who don't think that that's a project that should be built there, that ship has sailed. Or direct your comments to the Board of Trustees. They have decided that this piece of property should be developed for residential and other uses. It's not for us to challenge that. Our challenge is to allow it to be built the best we can plan for it and mitigate whatever effects are. We know that there's going to be a negative traffic impact.
I mean, I don't think we're saying two different things.
I think we are. I think it's a totally different approach, understanding of what our job is.
I think I was getting to the point of how you decide, how you're going to weight the different data that you have, different analyses to determine what the negative effects are.
Well,
not that.
Yeah, except we also have a
isn't
difference
to
of
try to do
opinion
that.
as to what you think is reasonably foreseeable and what we're told, what we can take into account as being reasonably foreseeable. And again, we explored last year whether we could take into account whatever the Route 9 changes are going to be. We go by what we were advised we can do. We all had the same question. I think,
I don't think we would.
I mean, Peter's point, which I need to look is, the traffic impact, I hadn't thought, to follow up on Tony's point, whether other traffic impacts should be looked at based upon other standards. That's basically what I heard you say. Right? I understand that.
Okay,
I just want to say we should do better. We should do better with Zoom and the sound. So I'm going to ask our professionals to make sure that the recordings are coming out better because it's not fair for people to be on Zoom and not be able to hear.
Okay, it's 9 on 11 o'clock and somebody has some urgent thought. I can close the meeting. So I'm heard in the microphone. Meeting of November 5th of the 2025 of the Planning Board for Irvington is closed.